What's up? What's up? What's up, my friends? Wait till a few people come in here. I was over in Dolly's a little earlier, and there was a very interesting conversation to be had, to be listened to. However, we got a detailed analysis on the contradictions and the breakdown of it, and it should be a very interesting show, so stay tuned. I think I've got this set to public. Give me a one in chat if you guys can hear me. Oh, that's me. Hello, me. Yes, yes, Jack and Lilly Sullivan. Let me just detail the latest information as per X. So, as of the latest available information, the search for Lilley Sullivan, who's 6, and Jack Sullivan, who's 4, these two went missing from their home in Lansdowne Station in Pictou County, Nova Scotia on May 2nd, 2025. This remains ongoing, no significant breakthroughs. The RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the Nova Scotia Ground Search and Rescue Association have conducted extensive searches focusing on heavily wooded rural terrain around Gairloch Road. Key updates include timeline confirmation. So the RCMP confirmed that Lily and Jack were seen in public with family members on May 1st, 2025, the day before their disappearance, right, narrowing the timeline of events. Initial large-scale searches involving over 160 volunteers, drones, canine units, and helicopters were scaled back on May 7th, 2025 due to the low likelihood of survival in the dense storm-damaged woods. Targeted searches resumed on May 17th, 18th, and May 31st, 2025, focusing on areas like where a potential footprint was found. They say no new evidence has been reported. The RCMP's Northeast Nova Scotia Major Crime Unit is actively investigating, having received over 355 tips and conducted more than 50 interviews. They're exploring all possibilities, including foul play, but no evidence of abduction has been found. Ruling out an Amber Alert, the public is urged to submit dashcam or video footage from Gairloch Road between April 28th and May 2nd, 2025. The children's stepfather, Daniel Martell, has been vocal, expressing hope and denying rumors of a party at the home before the disappearance. The children's mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, left Lansdowne Station on May 3rd to stay with family and has been advised not to speak to the media. A candlelight vigil was held on June 2nd, 2025 in Stellarton, Nova Scotia, to mark a 1 month since the disappearance. The search is complicated by the area's terrain damaged by Hurricane Fiona in 2022 and by online misinformation on platforms like TikTok and the YT, like you're watching here, which has spread unverified claims about the case. Well, of course, that's what people do. Oh my God, it's just hampering us. Well, what they're saying is it gets people calling, it gets people interested. Now, they always have to add that. What's going on? What's going on in my chat? Hello, my friends. Good to see you, Sally Carson. Kip Rich, it's good to see you, darling. I hope this case doesn't go the way of Summer Wells' case, Nini. It's impossible to tell the future. However, it is another missing child case, and it's. I had to shake my head after I listened to that interview over at Dolly's a little bit. At least Dolly. I'll say it now. At least Dolly had it right. I believe Dolly had it right, and he's got a right to question it, especially this interviewer. But we'll break it down. We've got all the contradictions. We've got the claims all narrowed down, and before we listen to it, so it's interesting nonetheless. When it comes to this situation, 4 and 6. You haven't heard this situation? Well, I just broke it down for you, too, Helen. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Sally, I mean, anything's possible in that sense, but when you scale out a little bit and you start to talk about kids and evil things that the people that are in their lives to look after them or are responsible for their safety do to them. It's a long history of coming in front of the media and doing things. It's not just a copycat type of thing. There's a lot more before summer. It's not the only one, and there'll be a lot more after all of this, unfortunately. When you're just intaking all of the information, because the responsibilities are the same across the board when it comes to looking after the safety of our children, a lot of the same things tend to pop up in situations like this. That's all. You're going to find a lot of parallels in the reasons and why you sense deception by the way of the parents in every situation like this. And you're right. You're right to question. These are the things that I find sound the same. There are a lot of the same reasons, a lot of the same excuses that the parents give. I think that's what makes them resemble one another. But they do resemble one another, But sadly, there's some things that are sticking out in this situation that I find disturbing. Now, what I find disturbing the most so far is the type of shade that the social media likes to throw against social media and things like this. Friends, the fifth estate is so very important, and especially in 2025, question your politicians, question your doctor, question everything that's relevant to you in your world. And keep your mind open. Good to see you, Quillfish. Now, I really just gave you the breakdown. Hold on, let me press pause over here. I got to get sorted out. The markets are popping. I've got some shorts out that are doing quite well right now. So let me get all of this closed out. I'll give you my focus, my undivided attention, like you all deserve. Now, just to refresh your memory, I've got it to this point. I uploaded a video, just a brief video outlining the case a couple of weeks ago. There's other channels out there that follow it or have been following it quite close because there's a big interest in it currently. Anytime that there's a parent or parents in the picture that give you a bullshit story, give you a shit story like you're about to hear come out of Malaya's mouth, they're going to find it unacceptable. Now, she's lawyered up and silenced up, which is probably a smart thing to do in any scenario that you're in. Don't be a part of it. Don't feed it, especially if you're guilty of something. And if you're not guilty of anything and you're actually innocent, it serves to protect you and you can go on about your business or in whatever the fuck you are doing. Every situation is different. Who knows at the end of the day what her reasoning is? She's not come forward or said anything or said boo. This interviewer is clearly biased, and you'll remember there's a little niche in the reporting of all of this in the corporate media, which talk about a domestic dispute that happened the day of the reporting. And the cops had to intervene and ask the people to leave. Well, that person is named Logan, and she was interviewed by another channel, and Dolly was reviewing that interview, and that's what we're going to look at now. Let me know if my volume is okay. Do I sound okay? Do I need to turn it up? Do I need to turn it up for you all? Let me see. You better check that. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I need to turn it up. I don't know why it keeps resetting itself. Yeah, the mom is so sketchy, Prairie. Yep, absolutely. The whole situation is sketchy, in my opinion. Now, I'm not coming down. I'll type it in chat. I'll write it down. There you go. That's my email. If you need to call and complain, if you need to call and yell, you know where to contact me at. So, first of all, it's going to get gossipy in here in no time. First of all, there's no way to confirm whether or not this was legitimately her cousin, but we're going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say that it is her cousin for the sake of this conversation from henceforward, in that sense, just for the sake of not confusing your mind. But I'm just putting that out there right now. I've got this broken down in the back before we start listening to this. This is actually a rare statement because Malaya has only really said anything in front of the cameras once. Her beloved children are gone, and she's only... Listen, she got in a car and vamoosed right away. I'm not going to make any excuses for her. She took off right away from an emergency situation. Wait a second. Didn't you just lose your children a second ago? You and your fucking boyfriend or whatever is your partner, Daniel? You have this open fucking relationship? What kind of shit is going on? What kind of bullshit are you putting on us? Daniel's going through the motions. He's got his cheerleading squad over there on, I don't know whose channel it was on or where it was from. This interview, I just saw it on Dolly Vision this morning. So did a lot of other people, by the way. And she's up there trying to put all of the blame on Malaya. All of the blame on Malaya in this, and Daniel has zero responsibility in this sense. Those two, if they want us to believe the story that they portrayed, those two are equally responsible for the safety of those children under their roof in that house. And first of all, you couldn't sound any more scripted in this particular interview, which is very rare out there to find. I had to go to Grizzly True Crimes to actually get the clip. No, actually, I didn't. I didn't get it at Grizzly True Crimes. I got it at somebody else, and I forgot her name already, and I apologize. You'll get a brief, but she's a decent channel. The point is you can't find this little clip out there all that easy. Man, I had to really search for it. You can't find her. Anyway, good to see you, Sweet Tea. What I'm trying to say is both parties in this are probably leading some sort of debaucherous lifestyle that they were brainwashed into believing was okay. The LGBTQIS CIA experiment, PSYOP. And somewhere in the midst of all of this stuff, you changed, you snapped, you lost it, you've done something. Now, these cops have to be all over this like a dirty shirt. I mean, you've got to be a fool to think that the police don't and aren't suspicious of all this. My point in this particular broadcast is to listen to the level of what I don't want to direct or what you should think, actually. I want you to hear this. You might have already heard it over on Dolly's, but to have this cousin of Daniel's, this is one of the people that was allegedly out front right in the midst of this domestic dispute. So she's a gossip. She's a little know-it-all fucking bitch. Okay. You already know the type of individual that she is. She wants to have her 15 minutes of fame and the attention. We see it every day here. All right. Honey baby, you wanted to come out and shit talk Malaya when in fact, as such an outstanding mother that you want to portray yourself to be, like you did on the live stream last night, rookie. If you don't recognize how equally culpable these two assholes are in this, you've got fucking problems. The last thing that you should have fucking done, but hold on. This is the type of individual that was at the end of their driveway during all of this. So either you're right involved as well, sweet tits, or you have a real problem with butting into people's business. You're like a little tattletale. You're like a little snitch, a rat. that sits there and squeals your perspective about everything because, well, you're actually exploiting the situation, honey boo. Just like you were at the end of the fucking driveway. Why don't you tell people what that fight was about, sweetheart? You tell us what the fight was about, or else it's all bullshit. How the hell are you pointing blame at somebody when you don't even know what the hell is going on yet? Or do you? My bet is you probably know a lot more than you are leading on. And you'll be the first one to come to YouTube and jump on an interview and tell you that you know nothing. Oh, I didn't know anything about this, but I know all about this and that and this and that. The fuck out of here. Garbage ass interview. We're going to break it down, all right? Fuck. These cops have, well, you should never say that, but you know, this is why I think they hire these PR people. Like they've got specific, like HR who tell you the same carbon copy thing in front of the camera every time. I think they do that to remove the actual investigators and the emotion that they are probably all mixed up in the background. They probably aren't as emotional as I get in front of this microphone sometimes, but it could be a strong indicator as to how suspicious they are of somebody or not. And they probably want to hide that. So not seem biased and stay away from any sort of, slip and fall lawyer tactics. Let me see. Let me pull this up. I thought we'd start just to remind people who aren't familiar with the situation, what Malaya said in front of the camera about the situation. So imagine this. Picture this. She calls up 911 and says her kids are gone. First of all, I want to know, at what point did you decide that your kids are gone and 911 needed calling? What was the deciding factor in all that? Because that's when you're in a situation, you got to call 911. There's a deciding factor. It's like, fuck. None of the actual points you'll find ever really come to surface. You really don't get a good handle on exactly what's going on. She engages in circular talk, which is what you're, I believe, witnessing is just a script that she's trying to remember under the gun in front of the camera, and she's screwing up, okay? She's messing up. But there's some things that stick out to me. The fact that she calls Daniel her partner, and it was like moments after the camera shut off that she jumped in the car, and he's never heard from her since. Broke up, blocked on Facebook. What? Something happened, dude. Remove herself from the situation. That way they can't catch you in a lie or anything like that in the midst of it. It's actually quite clever, because it forces the both of you to stick to that same script. Something fucking happened and you guys aren't saying it. Something happened and you're not letting everybody know what that is. You can get up there and beg for the public's assistance, you stupid asshole. But that's all bullshit. Daniel, you're full of shit. Oh, fuck, what I wouldn't give to play bad cop in those interview rooms. I'll come in there slamming the Nova Scotia phone book around. Let me just, before I get too carried away, let me see. Let me scroll back a little bit. I'm just having too much fun. I'm not that mad about it. I am bothered about it, but I'm working it a little bit. Hold on. Let me rewind this. This is from my video. I uploaded this a couple weeks ago, actually. So this is the interview. We'll go through it. It's very short, a couple times, so you can get an idea of exactly. There's no real story. Just a circular motion.
staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens. And they...
What the hell does one thing have to do with the other? Why is it you've got to fumble over your words when you can't just say they got out of the house? Why does it matter? Why does it matter? I won't ruin it. I won't ruin it for you. We'll listen to it without an interruption.
Home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet. And we get up, and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, "Do you hear the kids?" And he says, "No." And we get up instantly.
My partner, Daniel. Well, now it makes sense that she jumped in and bailed on him at the last minute. Listen, it's been fun, but I got to go. Something happened that you guys don't want to tell us. I wonder what that is. I bet you we could probably guess. I bet you we could probably speculate all night and probably figure this whole little situation out with you two ass clowns. Your partner. Something tells me she lives a rather promiscuous lifestyle, I bet. She'll be talking like a hoe. Wait till there's more. It's not just based off of this. You'll see in a moment.
We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them, and I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. They're both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store. Everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now. But we've been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued. Not just that they could possibly be abducted, which it is a possibility that they could have been, but just an alert to...
Like, what was that? You needed to add this little side note, but it might have been a possibility. Well, as a parent, with the word abduction coming out of my mouth, along with it would be flowing gallons of buckets of water. I would be all over the place emotionally. And so should you. You can't figure out whether to sound hopeful. You can't figure out whether to sound positive or not in all of this. It seems to me that you know a lot more than you're leading on in that sense. And a 4 and a 6-year-old don't get that far unless they've been abducted, dude. If my kids aren't within yelling distance, there's a problem. Especially in the middle of fucking nowhere. Right? Pictou Station is the middle of nowhere. It's not the middle of the city. Man, pisses me right off.
Let everyone know that they are missing. We had people text me saying that they weren't aware someone else let them know that they were missing, and it would just be nice if everyone could be alerted. We thought maybe that we found tracks, but it's still uncertain. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet, but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm. We're all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found. We want them home. Everyone loves them. They are definitely verbal, and they do have possible autism, but it's not extreme autism. It's just they
do have possible autism. Do they have a diagnosis? Or you're just suspect of the autism? Why is it relevant?
have issues with school, and they don't catch up with the other kids. I just want to remain hopeful. But there's always, in a mother's mind, you're always
All that is to me, if you're just going to add that comment, all it is to me is signaling to everybody out here how much of a problem it was for you with their suspected disability. I mean, you mentioned that you only bring it up because they had problems keeping up in school. Well, problems keeping up in school doesn't automatically equate to autism. It's not your pediatrician suspicious of it. It seems to me to be more of a bullshit statement in that sense. Like, I've been through it. But there's nothing in this interview that I believe. Does that seem like a person who's desperate to find her child in the moment that if your child was there 1 second and they're not the next, you probably should be out there finding them. Otherwise, somebody fucking took them. End of. From your perspective. So let me give you the breakdown. So I took the transcript of Dolly playing the interview from Logan, and I have something prepared here. So it says, and I uploaded the transcript through AI on Grok to break down and analyze any contradictions and summarize it, key points. So the provided transcript is from a live stream where a person named Dolly discusses and analyzes an interview with Logan, who claims to be Daniel Martell's cousin and aunt to Jack and Lilly Sullivan, the missing children from Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. The transcript includes Logan's statements about the case, Daniel's relationship with Malehya Brooks-Murray, the children's mother, and the behavior of Malehya's mother, interspersed with Dolly's commentary and skepticism. Below is an analysis of the transcript, focusing on identifying contradictions within Logan's statements, Dolly's interpretations, and the broader context of the case. So I'll just include Dolly's interpretations as well because he was nice enough to be up all night covering this already. I'm using it. So, key points. Let me see here. Get a little context first. So Logan, this is a person identifying as Daniel's cousin, discusses the disappearance of Jack, who is 4, and Lilly, who is 6 years old, focusing on Malaya's behavior, her mother's influence, and Daniel's perspective. She's speaking for Daniel. Dolly, which is the host in this little clip that I have here, questions Logan's credibility and motives, suspecting she is echoing Daniel's narrative to deflect blame onto Malaya and her mother. Oh yeah, she's up there spilling the tea, baby. We always love scenarios where there's some tea being spilled. One moment here. So a quick breakdown of Logan's claims. So here's some tea. Malaya's personality changed abruptly after her mother's influence, becoming distant and angry towards Daniel. Like within seconds. Oh shit. Malaya left the residence abruptly, leaving her car behind. They make country songs about that, by the way, which was later towed by search and rescue. They towed her car, I guess. So Logan says, to where she's staying now. Well, that was nice and expensive of them. That's a good call to have. Malaya's mother is portrayed as manipulative and toxic, with Logan describing an incident where the mother questioned her exchanging phone numbers with Malaya. It sounds to me that Malaya's mother is protective of her and she's a take charge kind of person. There's nothing to verify any of her claims, by the way. We don't know Malaya's mother. Daniel passed a lie detector test and believes the children were abducted, not lost in the woods. Malaya and Daniel were a very open couple. Now here you go. And generally, what the fuck's a very open couple? What is it that pops into your mind when you think of that? Now, with a generally good relationship, oh, my partner. It's my partner. Partner in what? Crime? Calling your husband, no, you're not husband. It's just, I don't know what the hell you are. Anyway, hold on. Malaya and Daniel were a very open couple with a generally good relationship through Malaya's mother, or though Malaya's mother consistently undermined her progress. Child Protective Services, which is the Children's Aid in Canada, is preventing Daniel from seeing his child Meadow, possibly due to police suspicions or allegations of domestic abuse. Well, when you guys come screaming at the end of the driveway there, Logan, that would be a domestic incident. An altercation occurred at the residence involving Logan, Malaya's family, and others, but Logan avoids detailing its cause. So that part of it really pissed me off when I was listening to all of this. I got that invested in all of this only to be let down by no tea being spilled. That really makes me question the validity of your claims. It could be Benny Keys' wife up there for all I know. Like, that happens quite often in situations like this, but for now, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Cheese and rice.
One of my mom.
So this is I got a clip from Dolly's stream here. It's a 30-minute clip, but let me continue on. Just to detail some of Dolly's commentary. So Dolly, he doubts Logan's credibility, questioning whether she is truly Daniel's cousin and suggesting she is an echo chamber for Daniel's narrative. Yeah, it's like listening to Daniel up there. Could be some rando stranger that's been watching the news and just introduced her as a mystery woman, who knows? Dolly finds it suspicious that Malaya's mother is heavily criticized, arguing that she wasn't present when the children went missing, so the blame on her seems misplaced. Can't disagree with that. Dolly also highlights the lack of emotional response. For example, no tears from Logan, Daniel, and Malaya questioning their concern for the missing children. Right. They're so fucking eager to point the finger at each other. Nobody, they completely disregard the kids through all of this. Like, think about through the search efforts. Like, think about if your dog just took off from its chain or you lost your keys to your car. You go on hardcore searches until you find those things. You drive yourself nuts. None of that seemed to have happened here. I have my suspicions why. And there has to be some sort of statistics that we aren't privy to inside. How many times do the cops, as soon as they get there, tell you to stay inside and just let us handle everything? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. We'll take over now. Everything's okay. We'll find them. That's kind of like the use of the polygraph examination. That's a tool, a way to gauge your reaction and how accepting you are to following their direction. in the moment. You don't need to do any of that shit. You need to find your kids, especially if they're gone and they were just there. But I'm suspicious of that. Highly suspicious of that. So Dolly highlights the lack of emotional response. Yes, yes, yes. Dolly suspects both Daniel and Malaya are equally responsible for the children's disappearance, dismissing the abduction theory as unlikely due to the remote location and timing. There's that, and that's a good point. Dolly notes that Malaya's lack of media engagement and search participation makes her appear guilty. But she also questions Logan's story about being blocked by Malaya's mother. So there's a long list of contradictions throughout this. One, the claim is Logan identifies as Daniel's cousin and aunt to Jack and Lilly, implying a close family tie and authority to speak on the case. So the contradiction lays in Dolly questioning whether Logan is actually Daniel's cousin, noting there's no way to tell if she's credible, if she's really Daniel's cousin. This suggests a potential inconsistency in Logan's self-identification, as her familial connection is unverified and her narrative aligns closely with Daniel's, raising doubts about her objectivity. So Logan's unverified status as cousin undermines her credibility, especially since she avoids media interviews, but speaks on a TikTok live stream, which Dolly finds inconsistent, I'd say. That's the contradictory part to all of this. She never talked to the media, but she's all over social media like a stinky shirt. Come on. Are you that stupid? Which Dolly finds inconsistent. Yes, I won't speak to the media, she says, but I will speak to TikTok. Oh my God, this selective platform choice could indicate she's seeking attention rather than providing reliable information. Goes on to say, let's see another one here, Malaya's behavior and departure. So Logan states that Malaya's personality changed within 5 minutes of her mother's influence, becoming angry and distant towards Daniel, and she left abruptly, leaving her car behind. So Logan also claims Malaya told police she felt the safest I've ever been, in quotes, with Daniel during an altercation, yet left the next day, blocking Logan's number. If Malaya felt safe with Daniel, her sudden departure and communication cutoff seem inconsistent, unless prompted by a significant event Logan doesn't fully disclose. So the rapid shift from feeling safe to leaving abruptly suggests missing context. Logan's story implies Malaya's mother manipulated her, but the altercation at the driveway involving Logan and Malaya's family could have been a catalyst, which Logan avoids detailing, creating a gap in the narrative. Yeah, let's say if you were down at the end of the driveway threatening bodily harm to Malaya and things like that, that could be a motivator for her to get the hell out of there. So there's the altercation details here. Logan describes this altercation at the residence involving herself, Malaya's family, her mother, and her aunt, with police intervention, but doesn't specify what the fight was about. Logan says Malaya told police she felt safe with Daniel during this altercation, yet Dolly points out that Logan omits the cause of the fight. Sharp eye, that guy. Which weakens her narrative. If the altercation was significant enough to involve police, its omission suggests Logan selectively sharing information to avoid implicating herself or Daniel. The lack of clarity about the altercation's cause creates suspicion. Dolly argues that family disputes typically have a reason. Families don't like each other for nothing. And Logan's refusal to elaborate could indicate she's hiding details that might reflect poorly on Daniel or herself. Abduction theory versus responsibility. Logan relays Daniel's belief that the children were abducted as there's no sign of them in the woods, and she doesn't believe Malaya was involved. Dolly counters that an abduction in a remote area like Lansdowne Station is highly unlikely, as it would require a kidnapper to be present at the exact moment the children left the house. Logan also notes that Daniel and Malaya used each other as alibis, which conflicts with the abduction story, and it suggests they coordinated a story to deflect blame. Everybody, I don't know anybody who's not saying that, to be honest with you. There's probably some out there. So this is what leads to wild speculation and crazy claims on, I think TikTok goes overboard. I haven't seen everything, but YouTube usually isn't that bad. So Malaya's mother's role. Logan portrays Malaya's mother as manipulative and toxic, citing an incident where the mother questioned Logan, giving Malaya her phone number and alleging it answered Malaya's phone, blocking further contact. Dolly disputes this, arguing that Malaya at 27 is an adult and unlikely to have her mother control her phone. Additionally, Logan's claim that the mother answered Malaya's phone and said, "Malaya's phone," is doubted by Dolly as implausible for a grown woman, suggesting Logan may be exaggerating or fabricating to vilify the mother. So the portrayal of Malaya's mother as controlling contradicts the idea of Malaya as an independent adult. Dolly's skepticism about the phone incident, I quote, "I don't believe that," highlights potential embellishment in Logan's story to shift blame onto Malaya's mother, who, by the way, wasn't present during this the disappearance. So Logan says her father, so emotional response and concern. Logan says her father, a 55-year-old man. What? What? Hold on, let me read this for a sec. Logan says her father, a 55-year-old man, cried over the missing children, but Daniel and Malaya showed no tears, and Logan herself displays no sadness in her voice, as noted by Dolly. Logan's lack of emotional distress while discussing the missing children, combined with her claim that her father cried, contrasts with her and Danielle's apparent lack of visible grief. Dolly finds this suspicious, stating, "I don't see concern for these missing kids," and questions Daniel's fake crying. Yeah, that's a camera cry. We all know that. You're putting that on for the camera. The absence of emotional response from Logan and Daniel undermines their credibility, especially in a case involving missing children. Logan's focus on Malaya's mother's behavior, rather than expressing grief, suggests she's prioritizing a narrative over genuine concern, which Dolly interprets as a red flag. So Logan also states that Children's Aid is preventing Daniel from seeing his child Meadow, possibly due to police suspicions or allegations of domestic abuse, but she's unsure of the exact reason. Logan claims Daniel has proved himself, and I quote, "proved himself over and over, yet Children's Aid still restricts his access, which Dolly argues must be based off concrete reasons. For example, police sharing suspicions of abuse. If Daniel passed a lie detector test and is innocent, the continued Children's Aid restriction seems inconsistent unless there's an undisclosed reason or some evidence. The lack of clarity about why Children's Aid is restricting Daniel's access suggests Logan is either uninformed or withholding information. I think she's uninformed. Dolly's point that CPS and police share information implies there may be allegations. For example, domestic abuse. Yeah, like the one that old Logan claims to be a part of at the end of the driveway the day that they called in and were in the midst of an emergency because they couldn't find their kids. That ain't the time for pointing fingers there, sweetheart, unless you already know something. That's a red flag. You know, that sort of finger pointing happens long after the emergency in the moment is over. So Logan describes Daniel and Malaya's relationship as great, saying they were a very open couple who got along well. What the fuck does that mean, Logan? Tells me that you're some sort of weirdo too. Contradiction. Dolly questions the very open couple comment, interpreting it to implying an open relationship For example, he quotes, "Are they swingers?" which seems out of context and odd for Logan to mention, I'd say. Additionally, Logan's claim of a great relationship conflicts with Malaya's sudden departure and blocking of communication, right? Suggesting an underlying issues not acknowledged by Logan. The very open couple statement is ambiguous and potentially misleading, as it doesn't align with the described tensions. Example, the altercation, Malaya's departure, Logan's insistence on a great relationship contradicts the evidence of conflict, supporting Dolly's view that Logan is echoing Daniel's narrative to downplay problems. So some broader observations. Logan's account heavily favors Daniel, portraying Malaya and her mother as primary sources of conflict. Her focus on Malaya's mother's toxicity and Malaya's abrupt change in behavior aligns with Daniel's public statements. No wonder she wanted the hell out of there. She's got this meddling fucking Logan in her life that's all up in her business, squeaking to the children's aid just to what? Because to make yourself seem virtuous, Logan? Or are you really Daniel's cousin? But giving you the benefit of the doubt in the moment here for the sake of this live stream. Her focus on Malaya's mother's toxicity and Malaya's abrupt change in behavior aligns with Daniel's public statements, suggesting she may be reinforcing his perspective rather than providing an independent account. So Dolly, of course, came across as very skeptical. His commentary highlights logical inconsistencies. Good job, Dolly, such as improbability of an abduction, the lack of emotional response, and the questionable focus on Malaya's mother. Her inconsistent, no, I should say that. Let's go ahead and do this. Her insistence that both Daniel and Malaya are equally responsible challenges Logan's one-sided narrative. Although we are missing a lot of context, the transcript lacks details about critical events. For example, the altercation's cause, which is important there. You would think that would be the title of the live stream, the exact timeline of Malaya's mother's arrival, and see Children's Aid's specific reasons for restricting Daniel's access. These omissions fuel contradictions and speculation. So both Logan and Dolly engage in speculation. For example, Logan's abduction theory, Dolly's comparison to other cases like Gabby Petito. This muddies the factual basis of the discussion, making it harder to discern truth from narrative. That's being a little hard. That's what AI Grok was telling you. So the transcript reveals several contradictions in Logan's account, primarily stemming from her selective disclosure, unverified credibility, and alignment with Daniel's narrative. Key inconsistencies include the questioning portrayal of Malaya's mother as controlling versus Malaya's autonomy as an adult. 2. The implausible abduction theory versus the coordinated alibis of Daniel and Malaya. 3. The claim of a great relationship contradicted by Malaya's abrupt departure and communication cutoff. 4. The lack of emotional response from Logan and Daniel despite the gravity of the situation. 5. The unclear reasons for Children's Aid's actions, which conflict with Daniel's claimed innocence. So to sum it up before we start, Dolly's analysis underscores these contradictions, suggesting Logan's account is biased and potentially misleading. While Logan's claims about Malaya's behavior and her mother's influence may contain some truth, the lack of verifiable details and emotional authenticity raises doubts about her reliability. The transcript reflects a complex case with competing narratives, but without additional evidence, it's difficult to separate fact from speculation. Well, that's fairly thorough. You probably hear a lawnmower in the background. Will be over in just a moment. My slaves are just tending to the garden. Let me see what you're saying down here. Good to see you. Good morning there, Slim. I wouldn't let Logan take my baby while my other 2 babies are missing. You think something's up with Logan? I do too. But I still listened. I still listen to this. It didn't take me, it's not going to take you more than the first one to recognize how gossipy and how one-sided and against Malaya and her mother in that sense. Well, something tells me that they're right in the middle of the reasons why there's probably conflict between those two parties. Like, she was at the end of the fucking driveway. You're at the end of the driveway the day of the search, fucking wailing your hands around in the middle of a fight, yelling. Well, what was it? What was it all about? You didn't even tell anybody what it was all about. That sticks out to me like a sore thumb. What the fuck is wrong with you? Hey, Vivian. What are you saying, Vivian? Did Daniel's mom... You're right, aren't you? Did Daniel's... well, the kids aren't Daniel's. The kids... These are stepchildren to Daniel and Logan. So they're not even related to... Or did I say Logan? To Daniel and Malaya, excuse me. Or what the fuck am I talking about? So Logan is the aunt. Allegedly. Yeah, Logan is all up in the business. She is. She doesn't even know what she's in for. Oh, you're going to be so sorry that you even, came to social media with this crap. I can feel it now. If she really is this busybody that was at the end of the driveway, like, what the hell is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? You're part of the problem. If you're not there helping and contributing to a healthy environment for those children, there's a problem. How did you know what was going on to start up with them on the day that they were reported missing, that the kids were reported missing? Why would you even start up with them? Like, who the fuck are you? We're going to listen to this shit. We'll stop it. We'll stop it whenever you want. What are you guys saying in my chat here? So when you just made April, when you say, I think it was an accident of some kind, you're saying it was unintentional, like they didn't maliciously do something, but they're culpable because potentially they got into something like fentanyl or something while the parents weren't watching behind their backs. Because her and her partner get a little crazy on the weekends and the odd Wednesday night. Was the argument because Daniel's family wanted to remove the baby? I would probably have to say that was probably it. They feel like they're the baby takes some sort of precedent over the two children that are missing, which is probably kind of representative of how alienated these two children were probably being. They're purposely alienated because they think Malaya is some sort of piece of shit, okay? Or some sort of person with all of these fucking kids coming into the lives of their beloved and outstanding Daniel. There's that definitely that comes across strongly in this interview. Like they have some sort of problem with Malaya in that sense, which we can't even, you can only go so far with that, right? That's part of the benefit of being protected and saying you're not talking. You don't have to get involved to an extent. Kendra family, possibly. She knows she gave her kids up expecting money, didn't get the money, then claimed they went missing, sold her kids, didn't get the money. Huh. Well, we're soon going to find out. Yeah, you're getting that. That's what I got too. Partner in crime. We now partner in a conspiracy to cover up evidence of your wrongdoing and the disappearing of your own kids. Who knows? At the end of the day, when you see a parent in that state get in front of the camera and say things in a circular motion that's trying to, why in that moment are you trying to portray some sort of positivity in a situation where you're in dire need for help, that you've got all these people coming to your aid and searching for your children? It seems a little odd that you're mentioning how thankful you are when it's their job anyway. Shouldn't your priorities be focused around these two? Your backyard's all fenced in. They're not going to wander away. They've probably got something to do out there. We got to get to know the sort of conflict that was going on in that home. And there was conflict between the partners. Do you know how I know? You know how I know that? Because she's referring to him as a partner. There's got to be conflict. That would be, partner would be like friend zoned. Malaya friend zoned Daniel right on fucking national TV. Ooh. Do you know what? When your feet get put to the fire, you're going to have all kinds of things wrong with you. What are you saying, Vivian? A postpartum session? People always want to simplify things in their minds. I don't know. Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. Like Susan Smith. Can you find me a few experts? Sure we can. How much money do you have? Let's see. I mean, that's always a possibility. I would think that from the outside looking in, it makes sense that Malaya's mom, which is probably the only person in her life, because she's probably been isolated there in that old boondock of a trailer with that's a lot of craziness in that trailer. There's 3 kids, 2 adults in that trailer. Guess you could get by. It's been done a few times. That's the biggest thing. There's an actual reason why CPS up here at CAS, Children's Aid, won't let Daniel visit the baby, but Child Protective Services. Maybe he failed his rug test. That's a possibility. It could be stemmed around the reasons around this fight at the end of the driveway, because it's hard to think that one wouldn't have to do with the other. Something that contributed to negativity in the household was probably at the end of the driveway that particular day. Got a scenario, Firefly? Yeah, I mean, that's always on the table. To arrange somebody to come pick the children up, to get away from her partner. Mother said she didn't, whatever the reason is, it's not what she's portraying on the media. I don't believe this story for a moment. I don't believe, you couldn't even remember. You're in and out of sleep. You can't hear the door open. They went out the door. They were playing. You didn't know what the fuck's going on here. You don't have which confusion in this scenario isn't unheard of. Even getting the yips in front of the camera isn't unheard of, but there's more here. You didn't get out a message, and you're sending out some sort of positivity about the possibility of their being abducted. There's always that possibility. Who the hell says it like that? Oh, everybody, it's just such a fantastic day out there. There's always the possibility of being abducted. We could only hope. You're sending that out in a positive light, as if, it had no meaning. You're talking about your own children. If you can't find them within 100 square feet when you go look for them at 4 and 6, somebody took them. And you should be ripping fucking faces off. You should be going to neighbors. You should be telling the cops, somebody's came and taken my kids. None of this pussyfooting around in front of the camera and hopefully things work out. And I don't know, but I'm going to go stay with my mom and hope things work out for the best. You know, it's in moments like these where you see the problems. Your lack of emotional response in this scenario like this tells people so much about where to ask questions. It has nothing to do with getting in front of the camera and telling us everything you know or all your intimate details and secrets. But there's a reason initially why having a camera in your face could be beneficial in an emergency, should it be as legitimate. Another thing that all of these scenarios have in common that people recognize is that the parents are fucking lying in each and every scenario in the exact same ways. They look guilty in the exact same scenarios because their lying comes from a place of desperation in the moment. You can plan and be as scripted as you want. Something will always, it's never going to sound right. It's not ever going to be right. The best you can hope for from the guilty party side is you guys sticking to your story. And in this scenario, it's like you've raised your eyes and you have absolutely no accountability, no responsibility. You're not even remorseful over the mistakes that you should have identified by now. It always depends. You know what, Vivian? I had the exact same problem with the sliding door at my cottage. And I'll tell you, yeah, that sliding door made squeaks. It made rolling thunder noises. But because the cottage is right on the lake, there's a certain level of white noise that, conditions you, like waves in your mind where you become hypnotized. The whole point to white noise, you don't always identify. It's not like you're living in an environment that's absolutely silent and every single noise stands out to you so strongly. Especially if you're dipping in and out of sleep, not paying attention. The fact that she brought it up would warrant more questions about it, no doubt. It could be windy. It's not exactly quiet in those trailers. Wind's drafty. All kinds of things make noise. But it doesn't necessarily make you, fear for the worst. Well, I would think in a spring day in the beginning of May in Nova Scotia, the ground's going to be kind of damp. And whether it be the backyard or from the trailer to any number of cars, there's going to be footprints. It's going to be footprints all around. Some are going to be older. Some are going to be newer. How are you going to be able to tell the difference? The footprint to me is a bit of a red herring. It's not doesn't really identify anything. Like there should be all kinds of scent and footprint around there. It's their house. It's their home. But yeah, in the middle of nowhere, I would expect there to be a vehicle involved, no doubt. Now, whether they were alive or barely alive. So what is it we're insinuating here? What is it I'm getting at? What is it I'm taking this to? Are we insinuating that there's some sort of conspiracy between the two to cover up? Why would they decide to do anything maliciously to take the lives of their own children and cover it up? And why? So I'm not sure that anything was malicious. 1954, Vivian. The only reason to stick to that story is to avoid any sort of culpability. Is Daniel really that heartless? And he's just playing the role of a caring stepfather who's going through the motions in front of the camera? A lot of people are saying, yeah, because these little crying sessions, these timed crying sessions, are tailored to suit the audience in the moment. Yeah, no, I get you. No, I get you. You can speculate away all you want in here. I invite it. A mother whose kids go missing, even with the mother on camera, she should be freaking out and panicking. Her tears were crocodile tears, possibly a sigh of relief. She planned an escape. I tend to agree with you, Kelly. That's what it comes across as. It doesn't come across as a panicked parent desperately searching and calling out to her children. Listen, if you can't find them in 100 feet, you should be on the camera threatening whoever just took your kids that you're fucking coming after them now. There should be no other fucking talk about anything else. Because what you're really saying is that, hey, everybody, I just completely fucking lost my kids. Can you please help me? Keep an eye out at the borders. They could be taken. Who knows what happened? We don't know. It's a possibility. Guess what, guys? It's even a possibility they may have even been abducted. But we stay hopeful. What? It's like moments after you call 911 and the CBC shows up, everybody shows up. Honey, nobody's buying it. If she can be awake enough to recall those details, Ann B is saying, they should have been up with those kids. Well, there's a conflict in that, isn't there? They kind of want to admit that they were up, but then they kind of don't. They kind of want to admit that they weren't paying attention, when in fact, none of it is even remotely true. It's just a cover story, in my opinion. That's why it's not clear and concise. This is what we were doing. I was just making a turkey sandwich. I was just in the bathroom. I was just laying in that cupboard playing PlayStation. I was just live streaming. I was just outside trying to catch a dirty rat in my garden. So what they're doing is putting the blame back on the kids. They're putting the blame back onto the victims in all of this. There's another consistent thing that happens in scenarios when the parents are sketchy AF, like they are here. Isn't that her clever way of putting blame back on the kids? They want to completely tell you the kids put their boots on, had a backpack, went out the back door, never to be seen again. All while we were, innocently in our beds, drifting in and out of sleep with our other child. That look at how great of a job that we do to parent this one. But what the hell are you doing to them that they want to get their boots on and take off and not have breakfast first and tear your fridge apart? Kids like to go to where their shit is. Unless they had a real reason to fear that they had to run away at the age of 4 and 6. Boy, are they growing up fast. Highly unlikely. They emancipated themselves that quick. Yeah, Vivian, I did have a rat outside under my bird feeder. I was hunting it this morning, that little bastard. It's a big son of a bitch. Little son of a bitch is smart too, but anyway, I won't get onto that. I won't talk about that. I hate rats. No, it's not like they're Slim. It's not like they were because the kids had tribal status because their father. It's only partial. It's not everybody in the res. It's not like they're over protecting, taking care of things, or investigating themselves. Nothing, not like that at all. Believe me. Quillfish is saying, you get the impression that the mother said they talk a lot and that she was drifting in and out of sleep. Yeah, they talk a lot. Isn't that something to say about your kids? They talk your ear off. I guess you could take that as a term of endearment. That always reminds me of Trezell and Jacqueline West talking about how their kids were rambunctious. Oh, they were rambunctious. Oh, they talk a lot, do they? Did that annoy you? Let's not be too controlling. Well, what time was this at? What time did all of this occur at? I wonder. Does anybody have that off the top of their head? Both of them stayed in bed and didn't feed those kids, should be arrested for negligence. We can't say that. First of all, we don't believe their story. You don't believe their story. You're just thinking that they're admitting to negligence in that sense. It sounds like you two were fucking hungover, sleeping with your kid in your bed, paying too much attention and swooning over the newborn and avoiding the other two kids to the point that they just vanished into thin air. I didn't know you could neglect a child into completely disappearing. That's more down along the lines of what they're portraying. Some sort of fantasy thing where you can't figure out how to get rid of these characters that you introduced. Drug delusions of cover-ups, in your opinion? They thought the bus driver would be blamed? Yeah, Kelly, another scenario. The parents passed out late and forgot to close the patio door altogether, so it was always opened and kids got out. They just woke up. But where would they go? Where did they go? Kids just don't run off into the darkness. Kids are naturally fearful in that sense. I mean, it's always possible, but highly unlikely. Never heard of that before. If that was the case, why wouldn't they just say it? We were oversleeping. Why even say you're oversleeping? Do you have to say that? She was trying to she kind of made that she was trying to get there, but she didn't get anywhere. She contradicted herself in mid-sentence, so it's hard to get clarity. Saying they talk to everyone, maybe that can be taken for insinuating that they wouldn't hesitate to go with a stranger. These are the RSTLNE things that you get asked every single time in a scenario like this. Bridget, you're believing You think that the stepfather did something and the mother went along with it so that they could have their own little family of 3 in that sense? Just your opinion? Couldn't it be the other way around, though, in that sense? Couldn't that be a source of the conflict? Like, I get what you're saying. I'm thinking in a reverse direction, though. But they're not, regardless, they're both, until we know otherwise, they're both just as culpable in all of this. We need Jody Sue on this. Jody Sue will know. I'll tune into her later on. Oh, yeah. As soon as a 4-year-old gets up against a fallen log, what do you think it's going to do? Climb over it and barrel over it and alpha male this bitch? Chop it up, stack that wood against the trailer and go on with life? No. Little kids don't go out in the middle of fucking nowhere and keep running into the wilderness. They like their food. They like their drinks. They like their TVs. They're creatures of habit. In my opinion, it's both parents sticking to this story to put the blame back on the victims. It does a multitude of things. It sheds, it's an easy story to convince people of. You can pretend a lot easier from then on out. That way they don't have to answer any actual questions about the level of negligence that was occurring within that home. Potentially. Yeah, that would be that's a real motivating factor as well. She doesn't want to lose her baby. That would be a motivator for her partner, Daniel. You just had a baby with the kid and you're calling him your partner? Oh, we're partners. We're so progressive. We progressed our kids into absolute oblivion. We have no idea where they went. Probably because we're so progressive in that sense. Just, this is going to be some sort of weird nonsense coming out here. But it seems weird that your solution would be to make your own kids disappear in any situation. I don't know how it would fit into this scenario. I feel it was probably more of they got into something. People bringing it up, and they don't want to be completely honest about their lifestyles. Their lifestyles probably have a lot more to do with contributing to the factors that got these 2 kids gone than anything else, in my opinion. No, Slim, absolutely not. Maybe 40 feet. Yeah, like off a bus and things like that. For a school bus to pick you up on and off the bus, yeah, 40 foot from the driveway. Yeah, doesn't seem out of the question. Teaching some transitioning skills. We've got a bullshit statement, Lips. We've got a bullshit statement, the fact that she's bailed, which tells me that she's not all that concerned about the kids just wandering off. The kids just, you called 911, the kids just wandered off, and you're already hightailing it down the road hours after you call 911. It contradicts to me the narrative. It contradicts the story. It tells me that you're not expecting those kids to return. because you already know something and you're pre-planning under the guise of being protected by moms. Don't think so. This isn't an emergency situation. Not the same one that you want to portray it as. You put all the blame on these two poor kids, Jack and Lily. Yeah, Dixie, maybe you would think you would think you'd be better able to tell, leave it up to the cops in that scenario. Like, we don't know what the terrain is right outside the door. They have a fenced in backyard, but who knows? You would think that there would be something, footprints, especially if they walked out, there would be something like walking out footprints. But what if it's all a stone patio a certain way, right? You might not be able to get as much as you would like. Yeah, I get it, Dixie. Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that yet. Maybe. You know what? I guess there's always a possibility. We don't know yet. Tony, I think so. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Question is, do you think if she did something, she would leave and not stick around to see what was going on? That's what it makes it look like. When you don't stick around, I'd be highly suspicious of it. Who's to say what it really is? I mean, people do things you can never really quite tell until you investigate further. But it stands out as suspicious. Like, you called in the troops. You could at least stick around to see how this is going to end up. You're concerned about your kids. Hey, soldier girl, good to see you. Let's hear it. Let's get to it. Let's hear a little bit of this interview now that we're all on the same level in regards to this.
I think from TikTok. I'll put this link that I got sent.
Everything out of my car and put it in her mother's car. And like I said, she had this whole plan, like she was going to drive her car into my house. Mm-hmm. And she was going to, and then the plan changed. Oh, I'm going to take the car to my mother's. Like, I'm going with my mother. Well, she didn't even come back for the car. Like, the search and rescue had her car towed to wherever she was because they left the car. That's how much of a hurry that was to leave.
Okay, so she didn't even take her vehicle, alleged this girl here. Like I said, just like Michelle said, there's no way to tell if she's credible, if she's really Daniel's cousin. But why people would come out here in a missing kid case and lie, we're going to go with that it's possibly his cousin. You know, we do know that these things that Daniel said himself, that the mother got in her ear, and within 5 minutes, Malaya had completely changed her personality, not wanting nothing to do with him, the way she was looking at him with anger. So we're going to take this as true. And, you know, this is weird that a mother don't even stick around for the whole press conference. She packs up, she leaves, she never comes back, she never goes to look for the child, she never does any of these things, which is completely bizarre for any mother. And, you know, just basically to Joe Dirt your kids. We've seen it in the Sebastian Rogers case. It's seeming to becoming a really common thing for mothers just to lose their kids and go, oh, well, I'm out, peace.
Malaya stayed at the residence Friday night.
And just out of curiosity, because I think you said something and I wasn't quite sure I understood. When did Malaya's mother arrive at the house?
So she arrived Friday. She was there before I got there on Friday when they went missing. I'm not sure the exact time. We all tried to figure that out. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did Malaya's mother stay overnight there?
I am unsure, but she was there in the morning when I got back, when I came back. So she could have stayed the night. I am, like I said, I am unsure because I didn't stay at the residence that night. I went home. And Daniel did pass the lie detector test.
So what was Daniel's relationship like with Malaya's mom?
From what I understand,
Why didn't she send that to my Facebook? One of my mods will post a link and just send that over to me if there's a new one.
Malaya's relationship with her mother was never great. She didn't want to live with her mother. So Daniel's poison is, from what I understand, poison. Like he always said, and he said this in his interviews over and over again, is every time Malaya got ahead in life, her mother pulled her back. So we'll just go with that.
I just find it strange how the grandmother would convince her daughter to leave
the residence.
instead of staying with her to look for these babies.
That woman has never shed a tear the whole time she was there. My dad even stated that. He goes, I cried. Like my father cried and cried and cried. This is a 55-year-old man.
Okay, my question would be then there, Logan, why didn't your cousin cry? Why wasn't Daniel crying? Because look, I've seen a lot of fake tears in my life, and I hate to say it, but that man was fake crying. I mean, he wasn't crying at all, right? Like, I mean, he may be upset because his old lady has left him, but far as crying, anybody seen any tears in this case? Press 1 in the chat room. Now, if you have
No, there's no actual tears, genuine tears from desperation and confusion. It's all just a shtick, an act.
haven't seen no tears like this video, okay, that way we know we got 1,300 likes on this video, because I haven't seen one tear from any of these people, right? She's talking right now. Do you hear any sadness in her voice? And that's the cousin. You know, maybe her dad that cried was the only good person in their family. I don't know. But I don't trust any of them. I don't trust any of them.
And he cried for those children, and that grandmother didn't shed a tear.
Now, I know you can't speak on Daniel's behalf, but what does he really truly believe happened to these kids?
That's something that he has stated all along, that it's something that has to come from him. Honestly, he believes they were, I think he believes that they were picked up by now, like that they were abducted, because there's no sign of them in the woods. He doesn't believe they're in the woods.
So he really doesn't believe that mom had anything to do with it.
That's something I don't know, because like, you know, you always have your line of doubt, right? Like you always.
I'm a little skeptical about that answer.
Have your theories and your things, so I can't speak on his behalf on that. Like,
Yeah, I understand. It's just, I just know that they both used each other as an alibi and in the morning in regards to the situation.
Absolutely. And no, I don't believe he believed or believes that Malaya had anything to do with the children missing.
A question that I have is, did Malaya have, or do you know if Malaya had her own cell phone?
Yes, she has her own cell phone. I've called her on it.
Off as Daniel's cheerleader.
No,
Just
negative.
My opinion.
This girl comes.
Well, there's a press conference. There's a press conference earlier, like in the first few days up on May 3rd. But, you know, it's just your routine updates as to the justification for getting all of the province's money out there to search, right? Because somebody's got to flip the bill for this. So it ends up, instead of really delving into what the hell is going on or expressing emotion on TV, they talk about how great everybody's doing, how great of a job everybody's doing, all the searchers, and you know how well it's catered and things like this. That's what it seems like. But no, really nothing concrete.
Off as Daniel's cheerleaders, just your opinion. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely taken up for her family. Okay. And they're trying to put shade on Malaya without putting direct shade on Malaya. Now you're saying y'all acting like, oh, well, no, we ain't accusing Malaya. We don't think Malaya has anything to do with it. But yet your whole conversation is about how strange Malaya's behavior is. Okay, make sense. Maybe
why the four-wheeler was so clean, washed away evidence.
Maybe Army Mom, maybe, I believe these kids they didn't run off. Okay. Daniel don't at this point, and his family don't believe they ran off. The kids didn't just vanish. There's no signs of abduction. And you got to remember, guys, that for these kids to get abducted, a kidnapper has to be in the middle of nowhere in Nova Scotia at the exact same time that these kids get out the house. Because according to them, the kids wasn't out the house very long, right? So there just happened to be a kidnapper in that amount of time in the middle of nowhere, just waiting on these kids to get out the house. And then you got to think about this. How would the kidnapper know the kids were going to get out the house? They wouldn't. The chances of these kids being abducted is super, super low. Their stories in the beginning were the most scripted stories I've ever heard in my life. The kids would talk to anybody. The kids would get in the car. They were right then trying to say the kids were kidnapped. They didn't even say, hey, we believe the kids could be in the woods somewhere. Let's get out there, search the woods. They were instantly trying to take the blame away from them. And whatever they did, they discussed what they were going to say to the media, for sure.
Okay. And Daniel has his own cell phone.
Absolutely, but they're a very open couple.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I was just.
What the hell was that? Tell me what you think that was. Yeah, but they're a very open couple? What? What the hell does that mean? And what does that have to do with the question? She's suggesting that they're swingers, Dolly.
They searched the woods. They were instantly trying to take the
Soldier
blame.
Girl, thank you so much, darling.
Them.
That's very generous of you,
And
girlfriend.
Whatever they did, they discussed what they were going to say to the media, for sure.
Okay. And Daniel has his own cell phone.
Absolutely, but they're a very open couple.
Okay. All right.
Sally, you said just say no to contacts. No, I think it means something more. Yes, but they're a very open couple. How open of a couple are they exactly? Like P. Diddy open?
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I was just curious.
Instantly trying to take right then trying to say the kids were kidnapped. They didn't even say, hey, we believe the kids could be in the woods somewhere. Let's get out there, search the woods. They were instantly trying to take the blame away from them. And whatever they did, they discussed what they were going to say to the media.
I can't say I disagree with Dolly in that statement. Everything was scripted. They had their story straight about what they were going to say in front of the media. Like, I mean, at some point that it's not going to be too suspicious in that sense. It still seems on top of that it's disingenuous. When you have a significant other, you're going to speak as a family in that sense. You're going to get your stories straight, but that doesn't automatically mean that you're guilty as all sin. I'm not arguing what he's saying. I'm just saying, like, at some point you're going to have to converse about what the hell is going on. It just seems that the story that they portrayed is bullshit. it's a bullshit story. They, like I said, they're putting the blame back on Jack and Lilly because that's the easiest thing to do in all of this. And who are anybody else to dispute it at this point in time? Because we're just the public. Good to see you, Taze.
For sure.
Okay. And Daniel has his own cell phone.
Absolutely, but they're a very open couple.
Absolutely, but they're a very open couple. As if that... Like, what is she insinuating with that shit? Like, what is she saying with that? I guess it's very difficult to... We're going to have to ask her. I have to ask Logan again. But she was a very open... But they're a very open couple. As if people are expecting them to share a cell phone. Well, why wouldn't they both have their own cell phones?
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I was just curious.
I see that. Did you think Malaya met somebody else type deal?
Oh, no, that's not where I was going with this. No. No, I was actually...
So what is she saying? They're very open.
Oh, fuck, that's a recipe fucking for disaster. I used to think that way too at one time with a significant other. It's like I'm not hiding anything. Hey, you want my password to my Facebook? Believe me, if your significant other is the type of person to be suspicious in the first place, they'll find something that is that they can use against you in that sense. That's going to make their feelings justified because they're probably a narcissist and not comfortable in their own skin. That's what my ex did to me. I was really doing nothing. All of a sudden I get these calls. I'm like, what? I should have never given you my fucking... All you're really saying is that, yeah, you were just in my Discord snooping around because you're suspicious of me. Fuck. What did you mean when you were telling that person this? What did that comment mean? I didn't like that comment. Fuck you. Fuck you, pal. Let's see. Jack and Lilly can walk. Jack and Lilly walked out. Victim blaming. Yep. Oh, no doubt. Quillfish. It would be an absolute nightmare, and they weren't leading on as if it bothered them all that much. Speculating, do you actually know what the term abduction means? Child abduction? I can't get over that, the way that she portrayed that as something to be hopeful over. A possibility. Let's see, they could be, maybe the Easter Bunny took them and they're having treats at, some fantasy realm.
Couple. What are they, swingers? What? Because then she was like, what are you saying, that Malaya met somebody else? They're a very open couple. That's a weird thing for the cousin to say. What, are they hooking up with other people?
And on top of that, she seems to sure know a lot about their business. Like, how does this Logan, why is Logan all up in their business in that sense? Like, why is she be knowing all of this?
That's what it kind of seemed like she was saying to me. Open couple. Well, very open couple.
Thinking back to when Daniel had said that he had gone out looking for the children and that the police, he had offered up his phone to the police to check the GPS and, all that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. No, they do have separate cell phones.
Okay, all right.
And the cops even gave Daniel a cell phone while they took Daniel's cell phone. So, right. No.
Okay.
I don't know, like I said, like whatever she has offered up or whatever she has done, if she had a lie detector test or whatever she has done, I can't speak on her behalf anymore because I haven't seen her since literally that Saturday, but I haven't spoken to her since that Sunday.
So did it come as a shock to Daniel that she actually up and left him?
Yes, 100%. Because one moment there was an altercation at the end of the driveway, which was me and one of Malaya's family members screaming at each other. And the cops were called down. So when the cops came down, they took Malaya aside. They took my mother aside because my mother said she was part of the altercation, which she was. I was as well. And my aunt. We all got spoken to by the police.
So you would have thought that she would have told the crux of this little confrontation. Like, what were you so upset about? Why would you come and start up with Malaya? No wonder she needed to get trucked out of there. With your aunt and your mother, all of these women all fighting around. This sort of behavior probably happened around the kids as well, you would have to expect. This virtuous behavior, because that's what she's portraying. She's up here, this individual who is pressing the truth, trying to straighten out all of this misinformation that she feels that is out there affecting people on the internet. Look, nothing is going to help Daniel look any less culpable in this scenario. There's something going on between these two. You're involved in it, if you are who you say you are. If you're not, like, let's think of the negativity that she's bringing, the type of individual that she is, interfering day in and day out on these individuals' lives, and what sort of effect that would have on Jack and Lilly. It has a negative effect.
Malaya literally told the police officer right then and there, like, this is the happiest I've ever been.
Okay. I've heard Daniel say that too. And that was.
So the fight would have to be over some sort of suspicion or allegations of domestic abuse within that relationship, you would think. Because if she's expressing it without telling you a response from Malaya about how happy, and she hasn't felt any safer than she does right at that moment. I don't know why those words would come out of your mouth in that moment. But she's talking about in the relationship with Daniel. That would make sense as to why she's taken the steps to remove herself from the home, probably because of the story that they told Children's Aid, or some sort of insight that we are not privy to at this moment, that she's insinuating about. It probably, and has to be, some sort of domestic abuse issue. What would be a contributing factor to cause you guys to go at each other's throats? Whatever it is, you would think Logan knows all about it, because she was right there at the end of the driveway to start chirping, to the point that she had to be removed that day. So what, Logan, you have to get into detail about this. You have to. What was the fight about and why?
Was in the text messages. What, why is she telling us what the altercation was about? Right? There's this altercation. There's this big fight with family members screaming at each other, but she's not telling us what that fight was about.
I feel the safest when I'm with here. Like, even when she left, Officer Mason was dead shocked, as was Daniel, that she actually left, because she told the officer that it was the safest she's ever been. So when
after her mother got there.
That was before her mother got to her.
And I just want to clarify, when you're saying that, she was saying,
you know, they pinned this on the mother, right? I have a daughter. If some weird shit, you know, I thought my daughter's husband was abusive or anything like that, I would get my daughter away from there too. Especially if things are going crazy and people out there cussing and screaming and blaming each other. I might want to get her out of there too. But now, as far as lawyering up, not talking to the media and not searching for the kid, that's totally different, because I would be out there. If my daughter's dog was missing, let's just say, I don't even want to jinx her or nothing, but let's just say the dog was missing. My daughter called me up and said, my dog's missing. I'm going to be out there searching for the dog. Okay. I mean, as a grandparent, I think you would be too, right? Or you would at least hold down the fort while she was out searching. But we don't see any of this. We see infighting with the family. How are you feeling, Dolly? I love Dan forever. I felt better. My face hurts. This side of my face is a little swollen. It's hard to tell because I got this big homeless beard. You really can't see it, but I can feel it. It feels like this whole side of my face is huge, right? But I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to tough it out. Sitting and hurting ain't going to do me any better than sitting here talking. So, but yeah, I've been better. I can tell you that. I just don't see it, right? I don't see the concern for these missing kids. And that's a hard one, right? That's a hard one. No concern for your missing children. I believe Daniel, I don't believe him. I believe he's overdoing it, like he's acting more concerned than he really is. I think he's more concerned about protecting Malaya at this point. And I did lean more towards Daniel in the beginning because, the whole evil stepfather thing, it happens. But now I'm starting to think this is more of a Leilani situation, and Daniel made me more of a Danny. Okay. Y'all remember that? Danny took care of the kids. Danny was all right. But Leilani was evil and she killed the kid, and Danny was just trying to cover for her and do the best he could. I think it's a situation like that.
Saying that this is the safest she's ever felt, meaning in your company and your family's company.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So to know that he got home to go.
Thanks there, Lips. What about her logging into Facebook and changing her status to Signal? Like, what? No doubt. It seems to me that it's probably a signal to Children's Aid to follow up on whatever conversations you had with them, to let them know that, yes, this is your future intent, and that's one of the steps to demonstrate. So there's quite possibly abuse occurring within the household to a degree that it was affecting Malaya. But it still doesn't account for why the children are missing. So you think that she's done something to go and hide her two children, to partially to get out of an already abusive situation? Well, if that was occurring, she would probably be able to find some sort of answer within the police services and not have to go to the great extent to bring in all of these choppers and searchers and waste resources. It didn't have to go that far. The kids are really missing. I believe that. Yeah, his quad was super clean. He cleaned his quad afterwards too.
Contact her that he was blocked and deleted.
Okay. Blocked and deleted. I think that has changed now. Guys, in the top of the comment box, I have pinned my other YouTube channel. It's called Dolly Vision Investigates. My live tomorrow during the day will be on that channel. So if you haven't yet, sub up that channel. The link is at the top of the comments. And when we go live tomorrow, we will be live during the day there. Okay, I'm going to do my daytime streams on Dolly Vision Investigates. Okay, you can type it in, Dolly Vision Investigates. And I'm going to do my nighttime streams right here. And my videos will be posted here. But my daytime streams are going to be on Dolly Vision Investigates. So make sure y'all subbed it up. You just subbed. Okay, if you're in here watching, make sure you sub up. You don't want to miss nothing, right? Because anything breaks during the daytime, that's where I'm going to be sharing it at. I'm going to be over there during the day, over here at night.
was a complete and utter shock.
How old is Malaya?
Malaya is 27, I believe.
And Daniel's 30.
32, I believe.
32, okay.
Okay. I just want to mention something. There's 211 people in the room.
Thank you.
Could we get
Well, Soldier Girl, I agree. They definitely show the signs. I feel that they're both conspiring. They both have similar and provide each other's alibi and stick to their story in that sense. Their story just doesn't make sense. That's almost suspicious in of itself. Doubly suspicious.
people to tap, please, and just boost the channel? It really, really, really helps the
Thank you,
channel a lot.
Vicky.
So if you're sitting here watching and you're enjoying the content, please support the channel.
Yes, tap away.
Oh, and I described Daniel and Malaya's relationship great, to be totally
Thank you.
honest. Like, for every time I've been around and been there, they've completely got along. So I don't know. Every relationship has issues, but I've never. I described their relationship as great. Like, they
Thank you.
became very close. They had a child together. He raises their kids. She helped raise his other kid. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I didn't see any issues.
And has Daniel had the opportunity?
Here's another thing I just thought of. How is it that this Logan is up there validating all of the sketchy claims by way of the parents in this when they look so horrible? On one hand, she wants to talk smack at Malaya, and then she's talking so righteously about the great relationship they had. The great relationship that had you, your mom, and your aunt at the end of the driveway hurling accusations at them to the point that you had to be removed, and she took off. This chick's all over the place. You're not giving an accurate portrayal. She does seem like she's mimicking and mirroring what Daniel has claimed. I haven't heard of that yet, Suzanne. What, the biological father? He'll be on the res somewhere. Yeah, you think she did the Facebook stuff before thinking it through, but she's clearly blaming him? You think? Yeah, you're right. No evidence is evidence. No evidence alongside a story that doesn't make any sense. Not that you would expect anybody's story to be realistic or in the scenario. There's not a good story, but it doesn't sit well with me at this point.
Since this has
Thank you.
happened, to visit Meadow?
No.
So who's preventing them from? Is it Malaya that's preventing them from doing that?
From what I understand, it's Children's Aid.
Sorry, from what you understand, it's who?
Children's Aid.
Why would Children's Aid withhold access to his child?
I'm not sure. And this is the type of situation.
Children's Aid would restrict access. She could be coming forward with a story of domestic abuse, and the story that she portrays would make no sense to go and return in that scenario after Children's Aid authorities know that there's abuse in the home. So she's probably got a story in her head that she's going with already. Now, whether Daniel's aware of it or not, I don't know.
I'll tell you why. Because here, even in the States, the police work closely with Child Protective Services. Okay. They work real close. Say there's a lead.
Let's say there is a lead, and let's say it came from a bush cam that had Daniel. One of their leads is Daniel on one of his four-wheelers or his four-wheeler with something on the back and him running around like a monkey without his head cut off the day of or hours before they called 911, and he doesn't want to count, and it contradicts with his story. If there's a blatant contradiction within the story, that they'll be the first ones, because it's their story, to know this. It could be preemptive, right? So now she's actively trying to make it look like she was a victim as well in all of this. And somehow, through some bizarre form of Stockholm syndrome, something happened to the kids, and maliciously she participated in a conspiracy to hide the bodies. And her behavior and actions right now have to speak more to what she knows investigators already know, which is going to be the same ones as Children's Aid. And you're going to want, and you're influenced by your mother to protect the children that you have at this moment and let things play out as they turn out. And really all Daniel's doing is getting in front of a camera and playing stupid. He's going through the motions like he's sad about this, and he's really overly hopeful. These are the last goddamn things I'd be saying in front of that camera. Oh, I'm so hopeful that things just work themselves out and fucking wonderful. Never happens in a scenario like this. This is the worst case scenario. And Daniel's just leading on as he's actively participating in the investigation and answering all of his questions. And there wouldn't be a whole lot of communications if an accident happened. And there's two kids missing. 2 kids, not one. One just didn't go out and roam off. Both of them did. Really? What's making you two fuckers so lazy all the time? I'm really highly suspicious of their substances being involved here. Whatever they have and have been doing, their lifestyle in that sense contributed to this.
That they believe they have that involves Daniel, they can tell Child Protective Services, okay, because they all work for the state or the county or the Providence, right? They all work together. Child Protective Services and the police work side by side to make sure kids are safe. The police can share things with the Child Protective Services that they don't share with the public. Okay. So they could say, hey, we believe that this father may be a threat to these kids. And
what I can't figure out is how Daniel can give a description about what they were last wearing when there's so many unknowns that they portray. Oh, there was very specific, a backpack with something on it, a design on it that she was wearing. That's very bizarre. It's not like a kid has their underwear and pants and shirt on and you can't figure out which one. That would be typical. But why is the kid just walk around buck naked with a backpack on in the middle of spring? The other kid's wearing a diaper and blue rubber boots. How is it you could put those things out there? Well, you had to tell them something. My point is it's hard to be that specific and not know what the hell is going on. There's no I think they were wearing. It's like he did portray it as if they might have found a clue out there. In the middle of the bush, they might have been one rubber boot, or the backpack was abandoned or planted as some sort of evidence to back up a narrative which the kids walked away into thin air in the middle of nowhere.
So on, they can share information. The Child Protective Services can also share information with the police. Hey, we had 3 tips that came in that they were being abusive to the kids. We had tips come in that.
You know how fast those dogs would have found those kids? Do you know how fast tracking dogs would find those kids if they just did wander away? Kids shed DNA all over the place. They're snot-nosed little things, drooling and touching and breaking stuff. All of a sudden, these kids are like as covert as a ninja. Dogs, we wouldn't even be here. The kids didn't wander away. Unlike the rest of the things in your life, the quad is sparkling. Is it because it's brand new? I don't know. But those 2 kids could easily fit in a tote that you can strap to the back of your rack on your quad, and you can bail off into the woods and the forest, which look, by the way, that they're being harvested for their timber in places. So there's all kinds of places to hide a body in that sense, because everything in a forested bush looks affected. Not to mention, they're talking about that their forestry around there was affected by a hurricane in that sense. Fiona or Iona, who knows, from 2022. So that will snap and break branches, make things extra hard for them to go through. Not to mention hide. But they wouldn't be hiding because they would be getting cold and hungry within 30 seconds. Yeah. It seems like this script was put together by people who abuse substances in that sense. I wonder at what point in the next few weeks are we going to get to that?
They weren't watching the kids. They can share information because when they go to prosecute, they both work together in prosecuting people. You'll see that in cases of murdered children. You'll see social workers show up to court because, I've been to a bunch of the court hearings, and they work side by side with the police and they share information. So say if the police said, well, we think the baby daddy has something to do with it.
I'm not sure exactly.
We don't want Meadow
That's a
around
good question,
him.
though.
And social services push that because they were told that by the police. So that may.
That's just to let people know that they're actively searching leads. That way they can say that they have some leads, like a boot print, for example. They don't have to give you the rest of the leads. They just gave you an example, which is a boot print. Yeah, you're outside near a home. There's going to be a boot print. Now, it might not have anything to do with anything in that sense, but it's just seems to be part of these things that they put out into the media as public statements. I don't think it has any real relevance to anything. Of course, it's outside. It's just one of those things. Oh, leaves the reader or the viewer with the sense that they're doing something about an otherwise out of control situation.
Be what that is.
Situation that I've never been in.
Like he even
Like in this situation, you can't find your kids. There's no possible way as parents you would think that your children have just up and walked out into the middle of the bush. That's what you want people to think. But how? Put yourself in that position. No way. there's no way you would, that's what you would think. If this truly happened to you in the way that you're portraying, you would feel violated and victimized at this point. You would be out there saying, bring in the goddamn army because some motherfucker out there has my kid. You need to check under every branch. Maybe he's got an underground fucking hangout and he's got my kids in some sort of cage. We're sticking around till we find those. We're sticking around till we find them. Otherwise, look at all the, traffic cams around here, there, wherever they are set because somebody has your kid. That's the priority. A 4 or 6-year-old don't walk off. I guess it's possible that they walked off into the middle of a bottomless pit. But where is that pit? Animals make a hell of a mess, and there would be all kinds of evidence to say that a bear was here and he made lunch of these kids, like Grizzly Man up in Alaska. But this is Nova Scotia. There ain't no grizzly in Nova Scotia. There's black bear, but they're skittish. Maybe a mountain lion got at them. They don't have that much of an appetite. There would be evidence all over the place and scent. The fact that these dogs didn't pick up these kids' scent and find them right away would make my heart drop as a parent in that sense. You would be, without a doubt, you would think your kids have been abducted by somebody. Why aren't you expressing it in full-fledged panic mode? Because she's busy sticking to a script. Hey, Nicole Horton. Man, it just makes no goddamn sense. Because what bothers me the most, and maybe it does you as well, is because you want to give people the benefit of the doubt to a degree, and you want your mind wants for all of what they're telling you to be true. And when the shit hits your ears, it's like there's no possible way that that's an acceptable answer. Therefore, something is off and you're lying about it. The question then becomes, why are you lying to us in the middle of a search for your missing kids? These are the things that, A, they're not going to ask you on the CBC, CTV, all of these state-run media, these corporate media. You need people there that are partial to the fifth estate and question everything, question the narrative. Is it going to bring those kids home faster? Well, I think we're probably far beyond that by now because they've probably found their end, some sort of other less friendly way, family-friendly way. Friends, we've got a registered sex offender in the live chat right now. Just be wary. Don't fall for anything that this RSO is saying. He's disgusting. It's disturbing. I was over in his chat yesterday telling him exactly what I thought of his broadcast. And his broadcasts were all about, again, David and Bird, Tyrant Bird. He just can't get that topic out of his mind. By the way, I saw Tommy's head bobbing up and down on the screen as this Rex Fredrickson was busy doing his live stream. Now,
I mean,
and he has proved himself over and over again. So, an CPS issue with this is kind of not my spot to say. So what goes on there? But no, from what I understand, and this is the only thing I'm going to say about it, is I believe it is CPS that is doing this right now.
So is it Malaya?
And if CPS is doing it, it's because they've been told something by the police. The police can share information with the CPS. Okay. The caseworkers and things like that, they share information. For, like I said, I've been to court. I've seen them discuss sharing information between CPS and the police. So I know they
listen, this situation, that's going to become even more confusing in the sense, because from Malaya's point of view, her perspective, if she's trying to get away with something, she's trying to get away with whatever level of culpability she has in this at the moment, she could be using this as a big distraction, as part of her victimhood potentially in this scenario. Because what it does is buy her time and eats up more time. Of course, it'll bring in more conversations through interviews with these detectives, which had to have happened. She had to get all of that done before she went in to this hardcore questioning by detectives that have been in this situation before. Now that there is a significant distance between the two, it's more difficult for those same detectives, these homicide detectives, if you like, to come in there and ask them both to come in for questioning, to pass their polygraph tests. And while they're in there in the station, they get them both in there and they nail them for questioning and get them tripping up in one place. They can't do that anymore. You can still try to schedule them in at the same time, but it's not as easy as if it was a natural, they were in their shelf state.
Do it. So now I ain't from Canada. I don't know exactly how Canada works, but I know here in the States, they share information. And if the police said, hey, we suspect him, or the detective said, do you see Dolly vision in yellow? If so, click it. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that they were sharing information in the beginning, and the police thought it was best to get away from Daniel because they probably suspected Daniel.
Is it Malaya's mom that has access to the little one right now?
The baby, Meadow, is in custody of her mother. Like, okay. Malaya has custody of Meadow at the moment.
I don't understand why they wouldn't allow Daniel access.
I don't understand why, if this is a case.
Malaya has the baby.
Exactly. Unless she made allegations of domestic abuse. But even then, it would have to go to family.
And I believe you hear that she's made claims of domestic abuse, right? Abuse. And I believe that. And I believe that's why the mother don't like Daniel, because she's told her mother, and then they got out there fighting because of that. There's a reason these families don't like each other. There's definitely a reason. It ain't just name a reason these families don't like each other for nothing. There's always something, right? There's always something.
Family court, and he should be allowed at minimal right now supervised access with
absolutely, and we've been going through all that, but as of right now we're working on that. So that's something I don't really want to discuss, is like his doings with the children at the moment.
Right. And that's fair enough.
Now, why didn't they ask her, is your cousin abusive? Has your cousin ever put his hands on Malaya? Right? Because that's what I'd be asking her. Why would the CPS do these? The CPS wouldn't do that without a reason. They don't just go, oh, you can't see your kid. They tell you why you can't see your kid. Okay? When he goes, I want to see my kid, they're going to be like, well, no, right now you can't see the kid because there's alleged abuse. They're going to tell you. They're not just going to say you can't see your kid. They're going to say, hey, until we further investigate these allegations of abuse, you can't see your kid. So they're going to tell Daniel why he can't see his kid. They ain't going to just say you can't see your kid. They're going to give you a reason, right? They ain't scared to tell you. They'll say, hey, you beating on your wife. That's what she says right now. This needs to be cleared up before you can see your child. She may be taking protective orders against him and things like that to keep him away. And once there's a protective order in place, you can't see your child anyway, because you can't be around the baby mama. So we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. And one thing you'll never know if stuff is through CPS, because that's not public. They're not going to tell you anything to do with a child. Nothing.
Absolutely.
And I don't believe she's met anybody else. Like I said she felt the safest and everything there. So everybody's saying that maybe she met somebody new. I don't believe that. her and Daniel were great, so I can't.
So just your gut instinct. What do you think? If you're not comfortable, that's fine. I mean, what is your gut instinct? What's going on with Malaya? Why is she doing all of this?
Thank you,
I
Dad.
believe her mother's kind of manipulative. From what I've seen of her,
Why would the mom want to do this?
I don't know. But from what I've met of the mother, I've been Daniel and her have been together 3 years. This is the first time I have ever met the mother. And like I said, and you know, when you get vibes from people, you know.
I don't know. I get vibes from all of you, right? She said, you know, when you get vibes from people, if the mother had to show up, right, that tells you something right there. Something is happening to make this woman show up. And I mean, of course, if my grandkids or, you know, my grand fur baby, because Steph don't have kids, went missing, I'm showing up. Okay, I'm going to show up. So, I mean, they're kind of like, why the attack against her mother so bad? Because she left? They're mad that she left. So it's the attack on the mother. Oh, this mother's this mother's that, this mother's this. But it was her choice, Malaya's choice to leave. Okay? Like, you can't force your kid, grown ass kids, to do stuff. Tiff's 25. Like, I went over to Tiff's house, tried to force her to do something. She's bigger than me. Okay? She'd be like, get out my face. She chose to do that. Now, the mother, did she plant a seed in her ear? Like, yeah, this dude's bad. I've been telling you he's bad. You need to get away from him. We need to figure out what's going on. It may be something like that. Or the mother knows Malaya did something and is protecting Malaya, right? Let's get you away from it. Let's shut up. Don't say nothing. Let's get you a lawyer. The mother could be looking at it and on another aspect of, let me protect my daughter. Let me protect her, even if she's did something wrong. Okay. Now, don't think parents won't protect you. Look at Gabby Petito, the laundries. Remember the dirty laundries? They were willing to bury Gabby. Most parents are going to protect their kids no matter what. A lot of us say we wouldn't, right? We say, I wouldn't protect my kid. They did something horrible. Yes, you would. You most likely, you would. All right. You think you wouldn't, right? Because you're not in that situation. But when you're pressed in that situation, you're going to tell your child, shut up, lawyer up. All right. We don't want you, spending the rest of your life in prison. You're going to try to protect your children. It's instinct. I ain't even mad at you, right? Because I know you're going to do that. Most people are going to do that. If you really, truly love your kid, they could Jeffrey Dahmer a mofo and you still would try to protect them, right? You wouldn't want to believe it. I mean, it's just the way it is. So I know, like I would say, I wouldn't protect my kid, but push come to shove, I'd probably try to protect my kid, so it is what it is.
Jesus. Even when I was putting my phone number in Malaya's phone for her, when she was leaving, her mother seemed like I was doing something wrong. Like, she was like, what are you doing with Malaya's phone? Like, what are you doing? I said, I'm giving her my number so she has me to call. Like, I'm a safe place. Like,
Right.
why are you being so nosy on what I'm doing to your daughter's phone? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, why? But when I did try to call Malaya afterwards, like on that Sunday, to check on Meadow and to check on her, she answered. And as soon as she answered, what I got was, I said, how is Meadow? She goes, Meadow is fine. And then I hear in the background, who are you talking to? Hang that phone up. So
she's very toxic. Yeah.
yes. So then when I called back the next time, because I'm very persistent, I'm going to call the next day, my number was blocked. So, little trick on your phone, if you're blocked, you can private your number and it will still go through. So I did call, but I didn't say anything because I wanted to see who would answer the phone. Her mother answered the phone and she went Malaya's phone. So I did not talk and I just hung up the phone because I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere.
Okay. Do y'all believe her? That is
I'm
the
not sure I
question.
do.
Do y'all believe this woman? Let's do a little poll. If you believe this woman, like this video and press 1. Okay. If you don't believe this woman, like this video and press 2. I'm thinking there's a little bit of, I don't know if I believe her. I don't know if I believe what she's saying.
Well, I don't believe her because she's trying to come across as this concerned aunt of the missing children and get her 15 minutes of fame on the backs of Malaya's mom, rumors. And then she comes across as somebody who's out to do something malicious and manipulate herself because her heart isn't in the right place. It's not like, you call back and there was no answer. It's not like you just talked to her briefly. Look at the way that you're portraying it. You called up and her mother's being overbearing in the background. Are you sure there might not be any other reasons perhaps for that, if that was true? But then you called back under a protected number, then they did answer. That tells me that they're still answering the phone. They didn't want to talk to you. But why would you do that in the first place? Who cares? You're meddling. You're meddling, and you're probably contributing to a lot of bullshit in Malaya's life that she wants to get rid of to begin with.
One, you believe her. A lot of people believe her. I see some twos. I mean, I don't know. I might be a 1.5. I may be a 1.5. I might be right in the middle of that. Like, I believe her a little bit, but then, the whole I call back blocked and her mama answer the phone.
Well, how do you know it wasn't the cops on the listening, the wired line? Believe me, the cops will be listening to all the conversations there, sweetheart.
And said Malaya's phone. I don't believe that. This is a grown ass woman. She's acting like Malaya's a little small child. I don't really buy that.
And what sort of information is she looking for? She never quite gets to that. You're calling her. What did you want to know? Like, why is it that you're involved at this point, to be specific? What's your concern, madam?
Now, it's possible. I mean, anything is possible that she's protecting her daughter and she's told her daughter, shut up, lawyer up. Let's protect you. But that would be she would have to know Malaya did something bad to be acting like that. So I don't know. I think this is more of the same kind of stuff that Daniel is saying, and his cousin is just repeating it.
It seems like part of their plan was to have Daniel feed you this narrative that panders to an audience going through the motions, while they continue to cause kind of obfuscation in the investigation behind the scenes by making it more complicated for the investigative services in a timely manner to, figure out what's going on. It's more difficult. Not impossible. It's just ever changing. It's evolving in that sense. There's a reason and there's a situation not to be so direct with a question. That's part of the plan, to minimize what culpability they know that they already have, in my opinion.
She's like the echo chamber for him to push his narrative. Now, we know there's 3 sides to every story. There's his side, her side, and the truth is somewhere right there in the middle, is what I truly believe. And right now, all we're hearing is their side to make them look like Malaya and her mother are the bad people. Now, what makes me agree with them is the fact that Malaya's lawyered up. She's not talking. She's not searching. She's not giving interviews to the media. It's almost like she has things to hide. That makes what they say a little more believable. But I don't know if I believe everything the cousin's saying. I think there's some truth to what she's saying, that she left.
That's hot here. It's already
she
28
left her
degrees
car
across the lake. Vivian?
She cut off communications with everybody. Right? Like, here's the thing. If I cut off communications with you, I'm cutting off communications to everybody that deals with you.
It's kind of funny where, Vivian, do you know you're probably only about 45 miles from me? unless I had to drive to you. If I drove to you, I'd have to drive around Lake Erie, but as the crow flies in a direction, you're only about 40 miles from me right now. And it is hot.
I'm not just cutting Daniel off. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to cut off his mama, his brother, everybody. If you don't want shit to do with somebody, you don't want shit to do with them or their family. We all know that, right? So that's like third party contact, because she knows if she talks to the cousin, all she's going to do is run back and tell Daniel, right? And if you're not trying to have any real communications with people, you're not going to speak with anybody around them.
Escaping with her mother at this point, knowing the writing on the wall, so to speak, to use an analogy, could be preemptive instead of the fear of Children's Aid coming in and swooping and taking away your child on you under these suspicious circumstances. Oh, my cottage on Lake Huron, Vivian. It was. Where I live is just off Lake Erie. Where was I going with that? Fuck, I forgot. I got distracted. Shit.
Either. So you're not even going to talk to them.
Oh, I know where I was going with that. Instead of the fear of having Children's Aid coming in and taking your baby into custody because of all of the information that you don't want to divulge at the moment because you're scared of the repercussions of that, going under your mother's wing into her protection would be a natural thing, in the sense that, presuming that she wants to keep Meadow, that Meadow can stay with her mother, her overbearing mother, in that sense, right? As opposed to being alone in this circumstance.
So I don't believe the part about the calling. Okay. I don't believe that part. Me, myself. Now, the part about her leaving and her mama coming and the mama being in the ear, maybe so, right? But as far as the rest of it, this girl seems like an echo chamber for Daniel. The question, Dolly, is it her father who is native? Yes. Malaya's father is the one that is native.
You're a 27-year-old girl and your mother has custody of your phone. I think there's an issue there.
Interesting.
She seems very toxic to me, and like I said, yes, very controlling, and that's how Daniel.
Yeah, but here's the thing, girl. The mother wasn't there when this child went missing. The only people that were there when this child went missing is your cousin and his old lady, Malaya. They were both there when these children went missing. They're both just as responsible as each other. You can't look at Malaya like she did something and not look at Daniel like he didn't do nothing. They were there together. They were in the same damn room. They scripted what they were going to say. Your cousin is just as responsible as Malaya is, and his ass should be in jail right now for child neglect. Okay? All these people should be in jail. Every last single one of them that were at that house should be in jail for child neglect, criminal child neglect.
Right. Something tells me that this has a lot more to do with the individuals that showed up at the end of the driveway to engage in a domestic in a time that is supposed to be an emergency. These sort of emergencies would probably bring a family together to hope for the best, rather than to start pointing fingers and accusing each other of God knows what, to having to be removed. Because that whole ordeal was overheard by the police, the people that were engaged there at the search. So that would lead to further questioning, probably putting you in a space to have to divulge more information than that you really planned on.
That's just a fact. One of them, but they're all toxic. They're all toxic.
Absolutely right, Dolly. The fact that this gal is getting up here and trying to portray a one-sided story in a situation like this at this point in time is writing on the wall in that sense. On one hand, she's denying, oh my God, we're just such fine, outstanding people. I wouldn't have any idea what would have contributed to the fact that these kids are no longer around, and the parents' stories are fucking ridiculous. She's not up here saying what I'm up here saying, what Dolly's up here saying, what you're saying at home. She's up here mimicking and mirroring the claims from her kin. Daniel doesn't want to call it a drug party, but whose children could have been taken and lured by any one of those people? Hey, Bridget. Yeah, it rhymes for sure, no doubt. Yeah, why the distraction from the real emergency, Lily and Jack, at that point in time, right? Talking about this gal's up here talking about how they were in an open relationship. Notice how she just slipped that in as though she wanted to normalize and drop that as a signal. Not for further, but to begin the thought, right? To welcome in more questions about a narrative that she can control. None of this has been about the kid. She isn't up here spouting off about how much nonsense the parents are spewing. She's enabling the shit.
People, okay? They scripted what they said to the media. They scripted it. They planned this. This comes with premeditation. This ain't just they vanished. No, they were both there. They're both responsible. And yeah, and this girl's over here fucking pinning it on Malaya's mama. Malaya's mama wasn't even there. Okay? She wasn't even there. She probably the most innocent person out of all of it. At this point, she probably don't know what's going on, and she's trying to just protect her daughter. Like, if I didn't have no clue to what's going on, my first instinct is going to be to protect my kid. First, right off the rip. One guilty, they're both guilty. That is absolutely right. And they're acting like this lady, like the goddamn grandma did it, right? No. Daniel and Malaya know what happened to these kids. Okay, that's the bottom line, because Dolly said so.
I mean, that would be going a bit far. I don't know how you'd make that jump, Lips, but Daniel dosing the kids. I guess that's possible, but you don't even have to go that far. Just that Jack and Lily potentially got into something, depending on the lifestyle that we suspect that they're leading, because it would raise the risk level. And what is the risk level exactly? The risk of harm due to the fact that the parents are engaged in a party open relationship, in that sense, engaged in all kinds of debauchery, like Sodom and Gomorrah level. Good to see you there, Carolina.
Daniel has described her to me because I've asked about her.
Yeah.
Jack, it's time to go to bed, baby. No, it's time to go to bed, baby. That
She's having an Andrew Hiltz moment.
3-hour late nap was not a great idea. I'm sorry. But yeah, no.
And this lady just happens to have a kid named Jack. That's weird in itself. Jack, go to bed. Good Lord. Good Lord. She had a kid named Jack.
Yeah. So if there's not anything else, I'm going to try to get this little creature to go to bed.
And she just called her kid a creature, okay? Named Jack.
But yeah, I kind of hope that I helped squash some.
You know, Logan, I want to thank you again so much for trusting.
You hope you squashed some what? This woman fucking came up here and contributed to what would otherwise in the corporate mainstream media be referred to as misinformation. You came up here and you didn't tell them anything. Just your one-sided bias against this mother in this sense, which is totally a distraction against the emergency at hand. You said nothing. You talked absolutely nothing about Jack and Lilly. You could have given us so much insight about the type of kids they were, all kinds of historically valuable information to people who are thirsty for it. Heaven's sakes. For heaven's sakes.
This channel.
Logan don't know shit. Okay? No, here's the thing is you could talk to 700 of their family members. They won't dare. Okay? Talk to Daniel's mom. She was there. Talk to Daniel. Talk to Malaya. They were there. They know what happened. And of course, you know, people are saying that Daniel's brother don't live there. Okay? He has two brothers. I just have a feeling that one of those four people, they're still my top four suspects, is Daniel, his brother, Malaya, and his mother. There's these rest of these people, y'all are just talking to get some attention, right? These attention ass seeking people. They're like, ooh, this is my 5 minutes of fame on fucking TikTok. It's weird.
Understand that you haven't ever spoken out. You have not spoken to the media.
I won't speak to them
again.
Well, Jeremiah, you'll have to tell it where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
I've been contacted daily.
I won't speak to the media, but I will speak to fucking TikTok. Okay? Make good sense. Look, girl, shut up. Okay? Go take care of Jack before he comes up missing. They, did anybody take anything away from what she said other than Malaya's mom's bad, Malaya's mom's bad, Malaya's mom's bad, Malaya's mom's bad? That's all I heard.
In our mods, and
Well, Wolfie, they're still sticking together in the sense that they're mimicking one another's alibi. They're giving each other an alibi. They're going with a scripted story in that sense. That's the crux of it, my friend. The rest of that, you can go, if you want to see the full video, go over to Dolly Vision on YouTube, and it's just live from earlier this morning. So Jeremiah, don't be spreading misinformation, bro. All kinds of rumors out there, potentially. I don't think so, because it's just a distraction from the obvious. It'd be nice to subscribe to some magical thinking in that sense and hope for the best in this case. It's very difficult when both parents in this scenario have such questionable behavior under these circumstances. It's something that you can't take back, and you better have a good reason to. Like you're just full of anxiety in the yips. Hey, Wolfie, you totally think they both know? Can't read that. You totally think both of them know what happened? Right now, I'm in 100% agreement with you, Wolfie. In fact, I'm more sure now than ever that they know what happened. What does that mean? Essentially, it means that the story that we know, that we delved into, that they portrayed in front of the cameras, the one that you can read about, is bullshit. Well, what's the one true thing? Probably that they were in bed. But they had all kinds of this and that to say about that was not clear about the level of they were supervising this in and out of sleep. They were in the kitchen. They were in the bedrooms talking. And the next moment they were absolutely gone. That to me is highly suspicious, because it's coming from one of the parents and they're okay with that scenario. I mean, I guess it might seem like that from the perspective of a parent if you're totally in the dark, but it seems that you're not telling us the whole scenario. The things that you have said are rather generic, but in them, make no sense in relation to a man who's looking for 2 missing kids. Yeah, I think Daniel, they said Daniel works at a lumber yard nearby with minimal hours, probably because he's too busy smoking the rock, chasing the dragon, they say out there in Nova Scotia. Yeah, you're right, Nicole. I think they're just as able to be into true crime and know these scenarios as well. They know what they have to say and what people want to hear. They have to come across as caring parents. They have to come across as though the story that they called with into 911 when they called in emergency services is somehow legit. These things don't stand up when you start to scrutinize them a little bit, right? It doesn't take much for people out there not to be satisfied with this story. And here's a scenario where these parents are clearly not telling us the truth. Maybe a bit mellow. I'm not sure. Appreciate you, MB. Yeah, it does smell like BS. Something's definitely going on. And I feel personally, when it comes to Logan, she's a contributing factor to the negativity, and she knows a whole lot more to the reasons what led up to, we'll call it in air quotes, the disappearance. I mean, what would Daniel's excuse be for showing up on trail cams? If indeed he is on trail cams, I guess you could use the excuse that he was out on his quad looking for them in the bush. How far exactly do you need to go? You're saying that the dogs would have barked, Dale? I'm not sure about the dogs actually being at the residence. I don't know if they have dogs. It kind of looks like they do because if it's a fenced-in backyard, it's nice to keep them in the back there, contained. Yeah, they went to bingo. Those dogs at the 110 Ben Hill Road, I'll never forget that pack of wild animals. Oh my God. Well, that's definitely true, Jeremiah. There is a lot that people don't understand. We don't know. We only can speculate on the things based upon the deception that we're detecting. We're detecting deception. Are you detecting any deception, Jeremiah? Let me know. Let's see. I have a feeling they're going to get away with this, which I hope to God they don't, but it's looking that way. I don't know about that. Nicole. I think that's a possibility. But I think there's enough there for investigators to recognize that there are lies at hand. And these two aren't as sophisticated as you out there probably want or think they are. These two will crumble upon a little bit of further investigation and figuring out as soon as you get them in some lies. But the problem is you have to have some evidence to hang over them. You have to have some key evidence to hang over their head. You have to know the things already before you go in and question them. I really hope that they pick something up on those trail cams. If there's bush cameras out there, it's going to rule out certain things in the detectives' minds, whether or not anything showed up on them. Well, there wasn't two running kids running through the middle of the bush on them. That we can rule that out. Yeah, Nicole, that's a good point. You thought Candace would crumble, but she didn't. Well, a lot of it comes into corruption in that sense. Maybe I don't even want to talk about that yet, Nicole. I do want to talk about it, but I don't want to think about somebody not receiving their justice in the scenario quite yet. So you find it odd that there's 4 adult residents initially, just me. Thanks for reminding me about that. So the other 2 individuals that are living in that home are Daniel's brother and his mother. Is that true? So you've got Daniel's brother, Daniel's mother, Daniel and Malaya, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a newborn baby. Let's look at that scenario for just a moment. What that is going to, especially if there's other adults in the house, there's going to have an influence. What the hell is going on in there? Oh, I'm really suspicious in that circumstance. The kids are going to lose out in that scenario. Oh, yeah, we got another Grandis. Mother lives in a camper out back. Oh, Daniel Brothers visits. He has his own place. So they're not actually living inside. So they've got their own space. Okay. I was going to say, holy shit. Maybe it was a little cabin fever. Somebody snapped. You think there's 2 brothers and you think one does live there, Vivian? I heard that as well. I don't have all the facts, but I heard that. But this contributing factor to all these people being in Daniel's family, it seems rather difficult on a mother with 2 kids, with not being picked on in that sense, or bullied or intimidated into being less than in an environment like that. Because it sounds like they're all fighting for their space. Everybody likes space. Yeah, well, polygraphs, we know they're lying already. Just me. Those polygraph examinations are tools. Just tools. They don't tell you whether or not, that doesn't direct you anywhere. You still have to do the same old work. The same old the brain work in that sense. I don't disagree, just me though. But it's a tool to open up further questioning on things. I just hope they don't give up on the investigation. Oh, Debbie's telling me something. There are 2 brothers. One lives with the mom in the camper. Okay. And the other one lives down the road. Thank you, Carolina. Straightening us out here. You're wondering if one failed, then what would be favorable to Daniel? Well, whatever the hell's going on there, you can't really know because there's other people there. There's other adults in the environment that you have to account for. You have to investigate. You have to look into it and say, okay, well, what the fuck is going on at this place? Who are their close associates? Who called the school at 6 a.m.? Well, they say that mom called. I don't know I don't have a fact on that, but somebody would have had to call at 6 a.m. in that day. Yeah, that's what he says. well, I don't want to give it away. What is it with these two people telling you what it is that they're not going to do and then turn around and do it in the next sentence? If you can't speak on the scenario, then don't speak on it. But he tells you they were in my favor, as if he passed, as though the cops would go ahead and tell you the results right there and then. Part of the whole process is itself a form of manipulation. Okay, they get you in there under the guise of it just being part of the process. Yeah, it's part of the process to determine some further fucking questions on you, the suspect, tough guy. The fuck do you think it is? You can just hook up a couple wires to anything, put it on the floor, call it a lie detector. Oh, shit. Daniel's polygraph, it was favorable to me. Meaning that essentially he's there in front of the camera. He's not behind bars at this moment. That's favorable. Oh, whew, he was sweating there for a bit. Like it's his Maury Povich. Results say you are the father. I love it. Well, who knows? Who fucking knows? I don't even give it. It's just a tool. It's just a tool. It's a tool to get them in there to measure, gauge their response over the same set of questions that go along with every other polygraph examination. Essentially, they set a baseline and bring you up to asking you if you had anything to do with the disappearance or whatever is appropriate in that scenario to them. And that's it. Look, a good liar can get away with that, especially somebody who has a substance abuse question. They don't stand up in court because, of course, it's information that can be manipulated either way. Cooler temperatures could affect your response. Oh, all kinds of things lawyers like to hide behind. But we love lie detectors nonetheless. But it's just part of the process. It takes it from a detective's interview technique. It takes it to a standardized way, which is a good way of getting favor with the person you're interviewing, rather than directly asking them questions, which might be taking us too personal and they might clam up, especially if they're not being forthcoming, right? It's all dependable on the scenario. And Debbie Monarchy. Interview said Daniel supplied his own polygraph. Here, guys, I passed already. Yes, it's in my favor. Oh, like the polygraph is going to tell us anything anyway. He wishes this was Maury Povich. You wish it was just that easy. There's still going to be questions. At the end of it, it's amazing to me at this point in time how detached these individuals seem from the true victims. And I'm not just saying this because it's a generic thing to say and it's safe, but this is the most shocking part of it, is to see how disassociated they are seemingly from an emergency situation. That tells me that it isn't exactly as they're portraying. You have to say something in front of the cameras. They got here and they're sticking it in your face. Like you almost expect them to lie in this scenario, or expect them to say something generic. Like really, that's really what Malaya did in front of the camera. And that's heartbreaking because you're getting away from the realities, the facts of the situation that is meant to be portrayed in front of that camera in a legitimate scenario. This is not a legitimate scenario as the parents want to portray it. Yes, Jack and Lilly are missing, but they just didn't wander off, and the parents are innocent and victims in all of this as well. In fact, it's got to be quite the opposite, because the demonstration by their story in front of that camera is your evidence in that. And that detachment is part of that, in my opinion. We've got bullshit detectors. That's what all of you are, Nicole. Everybody's bullshit detectors are going off. We don't need no polygraph. Look, you guys ask better questions. So that's a good one, Debbie. Letitia Stouch tried to get an online poly. They reported her to police and kept her money. She was pissed. Letitia is a good example in all of this as a person and the types of things that she was going with in real time to distract and draw out the scenario. It only made her look more and more suspect each time she did it. And thank God her husband right away wasn't having any of it. Because if his husband was having some of it and providing some of that alibi and backing her up on her completely fabricated tales, the investigation most likely is going to go in a different direction, which tells you and should scare you into recognizing that parents are getting away with murdering their children all over the Western civilization. And they're using media to normalize it and get away with it, to feed into these systems which are evil. Now you got it. You got it, sweet tea. Tragic things happen. But in these situations, why is it? Like, what happened in that scenario where they chose to fabricate a story that the kids just up and wandered away and they have this convoluted tale about the scenario in the moment? They just disappeared. They've got no idea what happened. Yeah, Casey Anthony got through that because of some manipulation in court. I have to remember that. The jury wouldn't let some evidence, you know how they don't allow certain evidence in front of the jury. I have to go back and look now. I can't remember. There was something there. Jeremiah is saying the biggest issue that he has is the RCMP actually never followed proper protocol. Anyone under 5 missing is supposed to have immediate Amber Alert, and also dogs tracked to the end of the driveway and nothing. Yeah, I was surprised about that. I think like there's exceptions that can always be made when it comes to Amber Alerts. And if they don't have all the answers at that time, it tells me one of two things. Either the cops don't believe a fucking word that they're saying, and they're not even bothering, and they're on a completely, they're a moonshot ahead of us. In that they're highly suspicious and they're actively building a case against them. That would be wishful thinking. Or the RCMP really fucking dropped the football here, which is a strong possibility too, considering the DEI stipulations within all of these Crown services, which are just as corrupt as everything in the United States is. Because it's directed by less than ideal individuals in places. Are you saying was his? You're thinking Daniel was built-in babysitter, the reason she blames him? Couldn't be her fault? Well, so there's another possibility of there being other individuals involved that are already involved with the family that knows how maybe lax they are as parents and took advantage of the fact that they had 2 kids around and couldn't help themselves and went and exploited these poor children in the worst sort of ways and disposed of the bodies. Well, if I was the parents, I would be fucking speaking. I would be saying something in front of that camera right in that moment. Why all the trying to deflect and putting the blame back onto the victims, which are no longer around? being the kids. There's a more devious reason for the deception, in my opinion, and it has to be. You don't lie this hard out of desperation. The only reason you do that is to save your own ass. Like if there was an accident and it was truly out of nowhere, you would be a little afraid maybe that somebody's going to throw the book at you because you would feel naturally negligent as a parent. Something happened to your child that you didn't anticipate. And look, these unfortunate series of events led to something that you had to call 911 about. What would bind them all together in a scenario like this? How about new laws that would hold? Let's say if there were substances involved, we'll say it for the sake of YouTube. You know, laws in Nova Scotia are going to be the same as everybody else. They're making it difficult, harder on the person who distributes it. Like they associate everybody involved in these little things when we'll call them quote unquote accidents happen with kids who pass away, who have gotten into their parents' stash. So if everybody's associated in this little opioid addiction, that could be another reason why everybody is sticking to the same story in that sense, to protect their own asses. But that is some cold fucking hearted shit. And I have a hard time believing that these bunch are going to hold down a conspiracy that at the end of it has the lives of 2 children. I don't think they're that sophisticated, and this is all out of desperation. And we're going to eventually, with leaky lips that wanted her 15 minutes of fame, Logan, with a person like Logan coming and giving us some tea and dropping tea like that every so often, it puts things in a lot more accurate of a perspective than what was already available. The environment, the holier than thou attitude, the want to put blame on Malaya, all that only does is outline the conflicts and where they are. And obviously there's got to be a lot more to that. It was probably an ongoing thing. And these people were very comfortable in going full-fledged Jerry Springer at the end of the driveway during an extreme situation. Like, how appropriate is that at this point in time, you idiot? That's some low-level trailer trash shit. But funny in a way. Sadly. So they're already at this stage seemingly divided, blaming one another. Are they not? Wouldn't you think, isn't that kind of what you're getting? One side blaming the other, especially Daniel's side blaming Malaya, causing her, you know, maybe there is a real reason she needed to be out of that environment. With all of those individuals there, how would you know that you weren't violated? And you've got this brainwashed dude, Daniel, enabling all of it as well. They all agree with one another because they've all probably been, you know, essentially gang up on her because she is an outsider. She's different. She's not part of the family. And what binds her to this Daniel Martell family is Meadow. She's treated like shit. Her kids are treated like shit. But Meadow is the priority among every other thing around there. To the point that the kids just disappeared. Didn't know where they went. So yeah, to a certain perspective, it can look bad. But it seems like they want to ride that out. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't have something to do with it. You know, like a level of culpability. At this point. The way she used the disability in that sense made it sound more of an inconvenience and more of an excuse than it did as a contributing factor to a possibility, a plausible factor in it. Because she didn't add any context, just the fact that there's autism. She just mentioned autism, and she wants everybody out there in TV land to interpret that in whatever way, which equals confusion. So when you want to communicate something, you want to be concise and get to the point, not add further confusion unless you're trying to purposefully obfuscate something, which is what we feel she's doing, or many people, feel that she's doing. Not necessarily, Tony. It doesn't have anything to do with an addiction and what people's physical appearance looks like. You're talking about people's shoddy lifestyle and the types of individuals that you're inviting in and out of your house that raises the risk level. You can have things in the house. Oh, we just do it on the weekends just for party. We just do it when we in our open relationships, when we all bang in the same bed. Who knows? Has nothing to do with watching somebody go through withdrawals, and that's naive, Tony. And with so many things out there to get hooked on and to get fucked up on, not everything is the same. There's uppers, there's downers, there's this, there's that. Fuck, it could be nitrous oxide. She might be getting high like Kanye. Could be on the K. Who knows? But the point is, when a child gets into those things and they get left out by the parents or another adult within the household, and kids get into it, problems can happen. How do you know they didn't get into Rice Krispie squares with a little bit of meth? Because you guys got all fucked up and left it all over the counter last night. You think it's that level, Soldier Girl? Could be. I love to hear your thoughts. I do. I like everybody's input. I don't mean to seem too harsh. Sometimes I just play devil's advocate. It comes across like I'm yelling at somebody. I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm not yelling at you. I feel for those poor babies. They must have, or still very scared. I hate thinking of where they are, what they're feeling. At the end of it, I wish we had more information. I wish we had a lot more information. Especially when they're bored and not being supervised in that sense, sweet tea. That's pretty, Yeah, I get it. Everybody's always looking for something, right? Always looking for something. But these parents in the moment, for what we've seen of them, are probably running on adrenaline and desperation. It can make you do, this sort of stress can make you do strange things. But the one thing that we're all suspicious about is that the parents aren't being completely forthcoming or honest about what happened. How could you feel that they were being honest in that scenario? Sadly, I wish they were. I really wish they were, but you didn't get across any information. Is it important that the world knows the moment? It's like you had a scripted story, an excuse for why those kids are no longer there. And that's supposed to offer up a replacement for what a desperate person in a tragic emergency situation requires. You're right, Donna. And that's an indicator. That's an indicator of deception. The next question is why are the parents being so deceptive when they just called 911 and apparently want to find their children again, as opposed to calling 911 and having you guys all show up and search and not find their kids. None of it aligns with a normal scenario, a situation, as normal as an emergency situation like this can be. And without a doubt, the RCMP know that. They're not stupid in that way, in other ways. But we know all kinds of unfair things happen in investigations like this because somebody up there at the RCMP has to be accountable, and hopefully they recognize how close they are to finding these two children, hopefully, in one way or the other. Well, friends, right now it's almost 1:00. I'm coming back on at 7 tonight, but I've got to slip out and do some adult things and work a little bit. So hopefully go and take up the rest of Dolly's live stream today. It's all about Jack and Lilly, talking about this specifically. It moved me to make this particular live stream today, and I thank you guys very much for sticking it out. We'll be monitoring this scenario, and let me know in the comment section below, guys, what your take is on this. What do you think about Logan and the conversation at hand, at hold in the scenario? Maybe you have a completely different perspective. I want to know. Let me know. But in the meantime, peace out.